Welcome back after lunch, and I'm joined in the commentary tower by Performance Director for Rowing Australia, or new Performance Director for Rowing Australia, Paul Thompson. Welcome, Tomo. First time I've seen you since you've come back.
Thanks, Razor.
It's lovely to have you here.
No, it's a pleasure to be here.
Like the President of the United States or a new Prime Minister, what's the first 100 days held for Paul Thompson in this role?
Very good. Reacquainting myself with a lot of people, to be fair, and finding out how things work, and getting through the selection, and getting with the training centres. Obviously, they were affected with the border closures and coming together, so they started in January, and getting them up and running and getting the team ready to go to Europe.
So it's a vastly different job to being a coach. You know, you coached in Australia, you coached in Britain, coached in China, and now you're telling the coaches what to do.
You never tell coaches what to do.
Because they won't listen?
Exactly. Poacher and gamekeeper and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, look, it is and it isn't. You know, to be a coach and to be a head coach, you have to be strategic. And working in different systems, I've had different roles. I've been a director of GB Hockey. On their board, worked across systems on the projects, and even similar in China. Been doing some cross sport stuff. So it's a different role, but it's something that I've been enjoying, and it's a good challenge.
You've worked with some very interesting people. I was quite friendly with David Tanner when he and I were on the different teams and stayed at each other's house. Sir David now. And then, of course, you worked with Sir Stephen Redgrave. So it's interesting that you're back here in Australia, where we don't give knighthoods anymore. So you're just working for someone else. But I'm sure you learnt a lot from David, in particular, in the first instance, about how to work with government and how to work with other people, because he was the master of getting money out of government. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, exactly. And you talk about two very dedicated servants of our sport there in Steve and David, and David, he could be a bit grumpy and a bit crotchety, but he always had the rowers' interests at heart, and
Absolutely.
I think the successful coaches and administrators, that's a bit of a fundamental that everyone should abide to. And it's not dissimilar here. I must admit, I've had some meetings recently with the AIS, and there's lots of acronyms and sayings, and I've had to ask them to translate it into to English so I can understand where it is. But it's it's a similar system as well. Obviously, we've got our federated model, which adds different stakeholders. So there's been a lot of relationship building. Finding out what people do.
States and the state institutes and academies, let alone the rowing associations in each state and territory. So a mutual friend of yours and mine, Wilma Shakespeare, said once to me that in Britain the sports system was like a bowl of spaghetti, and if you took one strand out, no one would know that there was anything different had happened. But Australians have a rich history of going to work in Britain, don't they?
Yeah, and there's a lot of British over here working for Rowing Australia as well. Actually, Emily, who you see working around here, we work
Ronnie
together
Batt.
at Rowing, British Rowing. Yeah, Ronnie Batt, our new AWE person with the men, Ruth. She was formerly British Rowing. There's a good crossover, as well as Andy Randall's now over working for the British.
Yeah. And not just in rowing, of course, as well. So one of the guys was joking before. I said, now, is Tomo the high performance director or the performance director? And they said, well, performance director until he turns out whether he's turned out high performance or not. So, how are we going to be judged, Tomo? That's the thing, It's a what does they say in football? It's a wins and losses industry, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is, and there's a big culture piece on at the moment, appropriately across all sports. So we want to make sure people are treated well, but at the bottom line, we've got to perform as well as treating people well.
Yeah.
And so that's a changing landscape in sport, but it's certainly something that I feel our team is well prepared and well set for.
Yeah. If we don't treat them well, we don't get them back.
Correct.
and I think yes, that's half the battle because the what is it 2.8 Olympics before you win your gold medal on average, I think it is, and 28 years of age or something like that. There's not too many who go out at 22 years of age in their first games and win a gold medal, is there?
No, there's a few, but usually it takes you one to lose before you've got one to win. But yeah.
I'm emceeing a lunch on the 3rd of June. I've got Kim Brennan coming along to speak. It's about the 2032 Olympics in Southeast Queensland, and her part is to talk to the athletes about the 11-year journey that she went on to win an Olympic gold medal, and because it's now 10 years before those games are going to be held in Southeast Queensland.
Yeah, that's right. And the young rowers that are here, they're going to be the ones that's their opportunity. And I've been fortunate enough to have 2 home Olympics.
Yes.
So far.
One in Sydney and one in Britain, yeah.
Yeah, and they're just a wonderful opportunity for our sport and the ability to grow our sport, and I see that as a real challenge for Rowing Australia and the board and all the state sport associations, rowing associations, to be able to lever what 2032 can provide, and the opportunities that we can put things in place that'll take us to 36 and 40 as well. It's and then for the athletes, it's just a wonderful opportunity to be performing in your in front of your home crowd, your family, your friends.
Yep.
It's just a brilliant experience.
Well, thanks for your time this morning, Paul. We'll look forward to seeing what the results are out of the Czech Republic later this year. Hopefully you'll get to go to Poland for a World Cup, and of course to Henley, I understand, and Lucerne, and we wish the team well and wish you the next 100 days to be as successful as the first 100. All the best, Tomo.
Thanks very much, Ray.
Bont Rowing continues to dedicate itself to producing anatomically correct rowing shoes, supplying athletes in over 23 national teams. Designed by rowers, for rowers, Bont Rowing shoes are built with a unique carbon fibre split sole for greater comfort, increased stability and maximum power transfer. Don't forget to check out our traders and boat builders to service your boats and provide spare parts. We have Sykes, Croker Oars, Wintec, RowFit and Perfect Balance Rowing. In the event of an emergency or evacuation, please follow the direction of event and venue staff. All cyclists must wear a helmet throughout the venue, but you are not permitted to ride beside the racing side of the course. Dogs must be kept on a leash and kept under control at all times. Please avoid leaving bags or personal belongings unattended. Keep Ngambie beautiful. Make sure that you put your rubbish in the bins provided. Make sure to stay sun smart and slip, slop, slap and sip. Slip on a long sleeve shirt after racing, slop on some sunscreen, slap on a hat and sip on some water to keep you hydrated. For the latest results and daily draws, visit our website arc.rowingaustralia.com.au. Check out the Regatta Village for a spot of shopping. We've got you covered from head to toe with rowing jewellery or gifts from Sport Republic and great oars. Rowing apparel from Pontoon Sports and 776 BC and innovative rowing shoes from Bont Rowing. Plus, don't forget to pick up your official merchandise from the Regatta shop. A special exhibition at this year's Australian Rowing Championships will celebrate the achievements of our Tokyo Olympians and Paralympians, as well as reliving the highlights of the Tokyo 2020 rowing regattas, including the famous 4-medal Hall Hour of Power and the moment Eric Horio AM clinched his 3rd Paralympic silver medal. The exhibition will document the experiences of Australia's rowing athletes as they navigated a 12-month Games delay. Visit the exhibition beside the Bont Rowing tent. Rowing Victoria is hosting the 2020 Australian Masters Rowing Championships from the 19th till the 22nd of May 2020 at Lake Wendouree in Ballarat. Visit rowingaustralia.com.au for more information. Rowing Australia are excited to welcome back the 500 metre sprint events, a fast, fun and exciting racing format in excellent viewing for spectators. These will be run on Saturday afternoon, so stick around to catch these races. This year, for the first time, Rowing Australia is hosting a coaching and officiating conference. It is on at the Mantra On-View Hotel in Surfers Paradise from Friday evening, the 22nd to 24th of April. Come along to hear from those involved in the Olympics and Paralympics, as well as Professor Jean Cote, one of the world's most foremost educators. Cote will be talking about effective coaching. Buy your tickets today at rowingaustralia.com.au. Get involved with the 2022 Anzac Indoor Rowing Challenge and row 2,504 metres as many times as you can on Anzac Day, 25th of April. The 2022 Australian Rowing Championships is proudly supported by the Shire of Strathbogie, Greater Shepparton City Council and the Victorian State Government. Take your performance to the next level at the 776 BC Pop-Up this Australian Rowing Championships. Learn how to get your club or school racing in 776 BC custom teamwear, plus access exclusive regatta offers on 776 BC's latest performance products, including their new technical outerwear range, developed in partnership with the Australian Rowing Team.
So we're ready to go with this afternoon's racing, and we're going to kick off with some para racing, the repechage of the PR3 women's single scull. And we've got some vision footage there where you can see the athletes are on the line trying to get themselves straight and ready in the slightly gusty conditions there at the start. In our PR3 women's single scull, we have Stephanie Walker from Drummoyne Rowing Club in lane 2, Rebecca Markwell from Bundaberg Rowing Club of Queensland in lane 3, Eleanor Taylor from Balmain Rowing Club in Sydney in lane 4, and her colleague Lauren Webber, also from Balmain Rowing Club, in lane 5. And I'm joined here in the commentary team by para rower Stuart John, also an expert in para rowing. And just a reminder, we have been asked a few times now to explain the difference between PR3, PR2 and PR1. So it is a tradition across Australian sport, or I think sport generally now, to call it P and then whatever it is. So if it's T, it's triathlon. If it's, I think paddle is a K or a C, actually. It's something like para canoe or para kayak. I've noticed
it
there's a
sounds
difference.
a little bit better than PP.
Yeah, that's true. So PR stands for para rowing, and then the 1, 2 or 3 signify basically the number of muscle groups that are used. So 1 being arms only, 2 being arms and trunk, and 3 being arms, trunk and the legs. So these 4 scullers in our repechage today have a second opportunity to make the final in the PR3 women's single scull, so they are able to use their legs as well as their trunk and their arms. The range of impairments is really broad across all parasport, isn't it, Stuart?
Yeah, absolutely. So within the, even within the PR3 categories, we just see the women go through now in the repechage for the PR3 single scull. So I know in the men's race yesterday, so you had someone like myself with a hand impairment. We had Mac Russell, Aaron Skinner, who both intellectually have an intellectual disability. Then you've got Nick Niels, who has a leg impairment. And then
James Talbot, who
James
the arm
Talbot.
impairment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly right.
Yeah.
And the reasons for it as well can be quite varied. You know, there are
was
a
gonna
number of us that are born with a
Born something.
particular
Yep.
impairment, but then you have people that, for reasons of accident, or in the case of someone like Lisa Griesel, unfortunately a cancer diagnosis, which meant that she ended up with an impairment. So you do
Or
get
somebody like Beck Jones who has an illness.
Yes,
and
exactly.
then acquires an impairment. Yeah, yeah,
exactly
it's very
right.
broad.
So
isn't it?
it's a very broad kind of a thing, and it's been interesting sort of discussing it with people, because coming from a non-rowing family, and I trying to explain, you know, why I'm in a particular category, and then people go, well, how do you go against other people that have different things wrong with them? And you go, okay, well, for example, say compared to somebody with a leg impairment, okay, I have a hand impairment. In the windy conditions, it does make it quite difficult to hold on to, and that was my issue yesterday. I lost control of one hand, but then also too, I also have full use of my legs. So then I'm able to drive a lot stronger than somebody who doesn't, you know, who has an issue with their legs. You know, someone like, say, a Jed Altschwager,
Yep.
who has leg amputation. So then he won't necessarily get the same drive that I potentially would, which is the only time you'll ever hear me favourably compared to Jed Altschwager. But you know, so there are that range of things in there, and I do think that it's not necessarily your impairment that will define who will win the race. It's still who is the better rower.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
and that's the important thing about it. And the great thing is as well is that when you're actually in these races, and you're compared to going into the able-bodied races, all of a sudden you do find, or certainly I find, that you are then in a competitive thing. You're up against people of your own category. We spoke yesterday about that real collegiate feel around para rowing, because everybody knows that you've got something that makes it a little bit harder to be able to get into a boat to paddle it through. Some can do that a lot better than others, but certainly, you know, it's just very, very supportive, and it's one of the things that I really enjoy, and it's one of the reasons why I've enjoyed going from administering rowing to actually taking part in rowing, because of that vibe. And I'm certainly looking forward to the Trickett Regatta on the Nepean River in a couple of weeks. There's a number of para rowing events there, and again, it's just a great opportunity to get out.
All get together and see each other and have a go.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, some of the sledging at the start line.
And it's similar, I think, from a coaching perspective, in that the key requirement of a para coach is to be interested in finding solutions for an athlete so that they can have their most enjoyable and hopefully in the end best performance, to help them achieve their potential, or if that's not what they're necessarily after, but they just want to keep fit and healthy and be part of a community to be able to deliver that. We've certainly got a range of impairments in this category as well that's racing now, the PR3 women's single scull. But one of the impairments we haven't mentioned is visual impairment, and we do have Rebecca Markwell here, who has a visual impairment, and so I'm presuming she'll be followed by a guide, because normally our visually impaired athletes are.
Yeah, so I think Rebecca Markwell might be moved across a little bit. There was one of the lanes that wasn't necessarily on there. So I think Rebecca Markwell has the boat currently. No, I think she's in lane.
She's certainly been posted as being in lane 3. Oh, there we go.
Yes.
So yes, there is somebody following her by the looks of things. So at the 500-metre mark, it was Stephanie Walker from Drummoyne, who is in the far lane, lane 2, who had taken a lead over Lauren Webber from Balmain Rowing Club of New South Wales, who's on the other side in lane 5. Eleanor Taylor from Balmain Rowing Club was in lane 4. She was sitting in 3rd position. And then Rebecca Markwell in lane 3 was a little way back. So one of the really tricky things, you mentioned it yesterday, was the wind. Every course is different. This course has a prevailing crosswind, and it's very definitely more sheltered at the finish than it is at the start. So I remember last year at Barrington, that was an enormous challenge for para rowers. Christian Lane Krebs, it was his first national championships, and he certainly was really challenged, and I remember Ruby Sutherland was as well. It was just such a strong headwind. To even get off the blocks was difficult, but holding the boat on the blocks was hard too. I think in the end they had to change the start line. Was it tricky yesterday? Did you have a crosswind blowing you around?
Yeah, there was a crosswind there, and then obviously coming from Canberra where we don't use starting blocks, I think that was about the third time that I'd ever been on a starting block.
Yes.
So, and only the second time in a single. So thankfully, the boat holder for myself was very patient, and then we had someone come out and say, all right, well, this is what you need to do here, and just make sure that we were all lined, because I was quite ready to go off at an angle and just, straighten it up. As you go through. But no, they certainly made certain, the boat race officials and the boat holders were absolutely fantastic, making sure and providing that guidance. And, that just won't be for the paras as well, particularly for people like the under-17s. You're coming in, you're naturally excited and nervous, and there's all that energy sort of down at the start, and to have people that are down there calmly taking you through it and just making sure that, you've got absolutely everything there ready to go, and that you do have the best possible start, so you're not sitting there trying to zigzag straight off the starting line.
That's nice for you, but that obviously makes it easier for them too, because it's much harder to straighten a boat up than it is to actually go off with your bows pointing into the wind and be blown straight in the first few strokes. So we're now at the 1,000 metre mark, and Stephanie Walker has extended her lead now over Lauren Webber and Eleanor Taylor. But the order in which they're progressing remains the same. Stephanie Walker from Drummoyne currently in first position, looking unassailable really, with a 17-second lead over Lauren Webber from Balmain, who's sitting in second. Eleanor Taylor from Balmain in third, some 14 seconds behind her, and then Rebecca Markwell a further 10 seconds back. She's representing Bundaberg in Queensland, and for a number of years she's been state representative, so I'm presuming she will be again this year.
Yeah, and she's also, Rebecca Markwell with Christian Lane Krebs will be rowing in the double scull first thing on Friday.
That is wonderful.
So they're rowing as a Bundaberg double scull, which is fantastic to see. You've also got Mac Russell and Julia Story rowing in that double scull as well, along with Aaron Skinner and Stephanie Walker from Drummoyne,
who's our leader at the moment in the single sculls race.
Yeah,
that will be good too.
Yes, no, I think it'll be an excellent little race in that double scull. And then we've got a number of these guys also backing it up in the fours as well. So it's a real opportunity, as mentioned, for these para rowers to come down to race in. It's one of the few events where, for New South Wales titles, for cricket, for a number of events, you don't necessarily have to have all crew members as a para rower.
Right.
Whereas this time around, you have to be a para rower.
Yes.
So it's all of us racing against ourselves.
And I think there's another key difference between the National Rowing Championships and all the other regattas and state championships around the country, and that is that you also need to be classified, don't you? So you need to have gone through that process of being assessed by an official classifier as to whether you really do have the criteria that qualify you for para rowing or not.
Yeah, and it's an interesting process to go through as well. So one of the things that you do have to do is get a medical certificate to say that you have a disability. Now, if you're like me and you've never had a full set of digits, going to the doctor and asking for a medical certificate to say that I'm missing the top half of 8 fingers, he just gave me a very odd look and then wrote it out. But you do, so just to give a little bit of an idea as to how that all works, particularly for physical I can speak for physical disabilities because that's what I have, obviously a little bit different for intellectual and visual impairments. But certainly, you put the application in with Rowing Australia, then you will go to an assessment, which for me was on the Friday of New South Wales Championships a couple of years ago. And then what they'll do then is go through and sort of have a look and say, okay, let's test out. So again, for mine, it was, testing out how strong each of the fingers were, what the range of flexibility was there, how much you're able to do. And it can be a little bit confronting. And I know and then they'll send you away and you'll sit outside while they make the final decision. And also, what level as well, because even within the PR3, I think it's for physical 10 points on a particular limb. Whereas for the double sculls, the international double sculls, it's 20 points on a particular limb.
That's right.
So it's that little bit different thing in there. So, but it was also, and again, I can only speak on my own experiences. It was also, after 40 years, the first time I'd ever officially had a disability.
Yes.
Ever officially being recognised as having a disability. So it's
A little bit confronting, or just kind
not
of
so much confronting. It's I think for me it was sort of I've never considered myself as a disabled person, but always as a person with a disability. You know, I've always had to do things a little bit differently. But you know, it's I think for me it was, you know, I just started rowing and I thought I'll go through this and then able to explain it to people within the ACT, because I was still working with Rowing ACT, and now working with charity for people with with upper limb impairments, Aussie Hands. As the president there, you know, it's an opportunity to promote rowing as a sport that people can do that they may not have thought they'd been able to do as well.
Just before we go back to the race, a quick shout out to some of the athletes that aren't here. Alex Wullerman, of course, who also has a hand impairment, and who has been in our national team now for in the squad for 3 or 4 years. Alex Viney, who's not able to race with us today, who was in the Paralympic 4 and in the Worlds 4 the year before that, and newly classified Fiona Jackson, who had an injury, and much like yourself, it was like, oh, am I really disabled? And an athlete with an impairment she is, and we're looking forward to welcoming her to the PR3 races, and hopefully she'll be in this race next year. Stephanie Walker, a commanding lead as she crosses the finish line in the repechage of the women's PR3 single scull. And she's won in a time of 11 minutes and 20 seconds, which is not bad at all. This wind has shifted round just slightly so that it's much more of a headwind than it was earlier. And then continuing down the course, it's actually evened out a little bit. We have Lauren Webber, who's in lane 5, closest to the grandstand, sitting in second position. A really good performance from Rebecca Markwell of Bundaberg across in lane 3. She's made up some ground during the course of the race, and Eleanor Taylor, who will finish 4th, also from Balmain Rowing Club.
I mean, it's amazing kudos, particularly for the vision impaired athletes, when you have the wind blowing against, and you know, then you've got your oars hitting the buoys, and you know, it's very much I would imagine it would be extremely difficult. It's hard enough being out there at the best of times when you've got a wind blowing you against the buoys, let alone if your vision's not quite
2020,
there. So,
yes.
Yeah, exactly right. So no, it's and just absolute respect for anyone with a disability that jumps on and, you know, takes parts in these events.
I completely agree with you. Yep, absolutely.
And it's fantastic to see. And yeah, the more people that we can get out rowing, build up the numbers, because as I say, it may well be that people think, oh, can't do that. You know, it's not something that I might be able to do. And then you go, oh, actually, we can work around this.
Indeed. And then progressing through local regattas and their state championships, working their way up to coming to the nationals and joining in this big celebration of rowing with everybody from across the country. So just confirming the results of the repechage of the PR3 women's single scull. The first 2 progress through to the final, which is tomorrow. And those 2 will be Stephanie Walker from Drummoyne Rowing Club and Lauren Webber from Balmain Rowing Club. Now eliminated from the event are Rebecca Markwell from Bundaberg and Eleanor Taylor from Balmain. But Rebecca will, as you say, she's got, they've both got other races coming up, and we'll see Rebecca back in the single on Sunday when she represents Queensland in the single scull.
Absolutely, and looking forward to those races as well. Race number 266 is underway. It's the first semi-final of the men's under-21 double sculls, first, second and third through to the final, with the rest eliminated. In lane 2 from Banks and UTS Haberfield, it's Mitchell Caponis and Mark Putter. They're coached by Alex Field and Thomas Krebber. In lane 3 from Sydney Rowing Club, Gordon Applecrin and William Delaney, coached by Donovan Seck and Shane Mulvaney. In lane 4 from North Esk, Rue Colley and Laurie Dean, coached by Brendan Long and Trevor Barrett. In lane 5 from West Australian Rowing Club, Aria Almasi and Blake Wyatt, coached by Stefano Belosso. In lane 6 from Canberra Rowing Club and the ACT Academy of Sport, Ethan Toscan and Raf Priest, coached by Dave Romano. And in lane 7 from Mercantile, Hamish Nicol and Jackson Morrish, and they're coached by Alistair Matthews. And just coming through the 500 metres, it was the Sydney Rowing Club crew of Gordon Applecrin and William Delaney leading the Banks UTS composite of Caponis and Putter by 2 seconds, then less than a second back to the North Esk crew of Colley and Dean, with the West Australian Rowing Club crew not too far behind them. In fact, at the 500 metres, it's really only the Mercantile combination of Nicol and Morrish that have a bit of work to do after the 500 metre mark. So this is race number 266. As mentioned, first, second and third through to the final. Only the 2 semi-finals in this event, so...
Good, because it was very confusing having 3 semi-finals earlier, I must say. And as we said, Richard and I, we still haven't really come up with a word for it. So Gordon Applequin, formerly of the Cathedral School in Townsville, but has rowed for Sydney Rowing Club for a number of years now. And Will Delaney, who after school rowing has moved across to Sydney Rowing Club. They're coached there by head coach Donovan Sheck, and the youth coach Shane Mulvaney, formerly of the Irish national team, is doing a really great job. Very organised coach and administrator there at Sydney Rowing Club. And this crew fitting together nicely and managing to put in a good start. They continue to lead at the 1,000 metre mark over Caponis and Putter. The combination, Mitch Caponis from UTS with Mark Putter from Banks.
Yeah, then sitting in third place are the Northwest crew of Rue Colley and Laurie Dean. So they're our top 3 at the moment. 3 seconds back then into fourth with the West Australian Rowing Club combination of Al Massey and Wyatt. We saw both of those guys in the single sculls earlier today. So they do have a little bit of work to do. 3 seconds back at the 1,000 metre mark, but not out of the realms of impossibility. Another 5 seconds back to the Canberra ACT crew of Ethan Toscan and Raphael Priest, and then Hamish Nicol and Jackson Morrish, another 12 seconds back in 7th place at the moment. So things not quite exactly to lane, but certainly not all that far off it.
And that ACT high performance program, there's quite a spread again, isn't there? With the institutes, we know that the very top athletes are generally at the National Training Centre, and if they're not based there permanently, they're often going up there for camps. And then we have the main purpose of the institute programs these days, which is to prepare pathway athletes to be able to progress to the National Training Centre and from there go out, race and win medals for Australia, because that's what the funding is for, quite frankly. One of the things that has really proved successful in the pathway program is that transition. So the institutes and the high performance program clubs preparing athletes technically, physically and tactically to be able to race at that under pressure at that more senior level later. And one of the programs that's particularly effective is the ACT high performance program under the guidance of David Fermano, isn't it? So it's good to see these athletes, presumably young ones, but racing up to under 21 level.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of guys that have been picked out recently from the from schools. So they've come from Radford College, they've come from Canberra Grammar, and being able to go up into that ACTAS program and then hopefully develop through. So certainly at Pathways level a few years ago, I remember the ACT having some really good results in the Pathways 8s. And again, you know, what we were talking about earlier, trying to build up all those levels, and you know, the better that each state and territory is, the stronger that Australian rowing as a whole is. Absolutely
right. So a bit of a turnaround in the second half of the race here. We did have Gordon Applequin and Will Delaney of Sydney Rowing Club in the lead, but sculling strongly behind them were Mitch Caponis and Mark Putter, the Banks Haberfield composite, and they have now put a big push in, and they have not just taken the lead, but as stroke by stroke they are extending that lead over the Sydney Rowing Club crew. So they're going to take out the favoured lane in the final in this under-21 men's double scull.
Yeah, they absolutely flew, and you could really see there it wasn't a high rating, but it was some great drive. There was some good synchronisation between the bow and the stroke, and a really good win there for Mitchell Caponis and Mark Putter. The Sydney Rowing Club crew of Gordon Applequin and William Delaney will finish in second place, ahead of the North Esk double of Rue Colley and Laurie Dean. So that's our 1, 2, 3 for the final of the men's under-21 double sculls. Coming through in fourth place will be Aria Almasi and Blake Wyatt from West Australian Rowing Club, and then they'll finish ahead of the Canberra Rowing Club pair of Ethan Toscan and Raphael Priest, and then the Mercantile crew of Hamish Nicol and Jackson Morrish finishing in sixth. So as per the lanes and as per the seedings for that first semi-final of the men's under-21 double sculls.
in a provisional time of 7 minutes 33. The margin at the end there was 14.28 seconds provisionally, and then a further 3.97 back to Colley and Dean. As you say, Stuart, they progressed through to the final, and the remaining 3 crews are now eliminated from the event. No B final for them, sadly, but we know that they'll be progressing into 4s and quads, and a number of them rowing in their Youth 8 for their state on Sunday. The second semi-final of the men's under-21 double scull is now in progress, with Sydney Rowing Club in lane 2, Declan Glendinning and Bradley Graham. Mossman Rowing Club in lane 3, Kyle Brown and Patrick Burke. Sydney University and the New South Wales Institute of Sport crew of Joe McCauley and Hamish Danks in lane 4. The Tasmania University and Toowong composite of Rodan Martin and Samuel Mounter in lane 5. Toowong Rowing Club in lane 6, Moss Murphy and Sam Parry. And Ballarat City in lane 7, William Gilbert and William McKechnie.
And coming through the 1,000 metres of the second semi-final of the men's under-21 double sculls, it is the Sydney Rowing Club crew of Declan Glendinning and Bradley Graham who have the lead. They're ahead of the Sydney University and Swiss crew of Joe McCauley and Hamish Danks. And then sitting in third place, Tasmania University composite of Rodan Martin and Samuel Mounter.
So the only international that I can spot there is Hamish Danks, who is in the junior men's double, coached by Chris Holliday of Sydney Uni Boat Club and also of Newington College. And I'm pretty sure Hamish is Newington College as well as Sydney Uni. So bit of international experience there. But there is no doubt Declan Glendinning and Bradley Graham have had a fabulous seasons. I think Bradley might have had a touch of maybe COVID or a virus at one point in the season, but he bounced back from that pretty quickly, and now he's able to get out here and race, and they've managed to take a fairly hefty lead by 1,000 metres of 7 seconds, which is a couple of lengths, and there's another couple of lengths then back to the Tasmania University composite.
Yeah, a real race in 2 at the moment. So Glendinning and Graham with the lead ahead of McCauley and Danks, Martin and Mounter as they come through the 1,500 metre mark. So still Declan Glendinning and Bradley Graham, and that is a very, very comfortable lead in what's some very tricky conditions out there at the moment. The wind has picked up a little bit. We are sitting on about 30 kilometres an hour, 30 kilometre an hour winds coming from the south.
Which I think is forecast to be about the top speed, isn't it? So hopefully we'll see it start to settle again before too long.
Yeah, it's, I mean, the forecast for the weekend is fantastic.
Yes.
The Interstate Regatta.
Yep, should be a doozy.
It's looking glassy. It's going to be some brilliant rowing. I'm really looking forward to that one. But it is Glendinning and Graham with the lead ahead of McCauley and Danks. A 10-second lead at the 1,500 metre mark in some tough conditions. They are absolutely blitzing it. The Tasmania University Toowong composite of Rodan Martin and Samuel Mounter sitting in third place. There's only a second between them and the Mossman crew of Kyle Brown and Patrick Burke. So they'll be looking for a big final 500.
Yeah, that Mossman crew, Pat Burke especially, they've trained well and they've raced well all season. I was a bit surprised they were down at the beginning of the race, but it looks like they've got their rhythm back and they're pushing back in the middle of the course.
Yeah, they're just coming up towards the final 250 metre mark in that battle for third and fourth. Certainly Glendinning and Graham, the two Gs out in front and looking extremely comfortable. Then McCauley and Danks sitting in second place. So we've got the battle for third. Back a little bit further, we've got Ballarat City's William Gilbert and William McKechnie leading Toowong's Moss Murphy and Sam Parry. But with about 50 metres to go, it will be Declan Glendinning and Bradley Graham from Sydney Rowing Club who are going to go through and take the win in a very comfortable fashion in the under-21 men's double scull. They'll go through to the final. The battle is on for second, and Mossman have absolutely upped their rate. They're now sitting in the 30s, and they are putting in some big strokes. They've opened up a boat-length lead ahead of the Tasmania University composite crew. It will be Sydney University and Swiss crew in lane 4 to go through in second, and then Mossman with a big finish there at the end. They were absolutely flying, opened up. They came down from a second down to winning, to finishing in third place, a boat length ahead of the Tasmania University Toowong composite crew, and then back a little bit further to Ballarat City coming in fifth in lane 7, and then Toowong in 6th.
So confirming the results of the second semi-final of the under-21 men's double scull, a win for Sydney Rowing Club, Declan Glendenning and Bradley Graham. Second, Sydney University Boat Club, Joe McCauley and Hamish Danks. Third, Mossman Rowing Club, Kyle Brown and Patrick Burke. Those three crews will progress through to the final. Fourth, Tasmania University Toowong. Fifth, Ballarat City. And sixth, Toowong will now be eliminated for the event. Provisional time for that win from Sydney Rowing Club, 7 minutes 32.32, which compares with the Banks Haberfield composite that did a time of 7:33.49. And funnily enough, the margin's almost exactly the same. So Banks won over Sydney by 14 seconds, and Sydney won over Sydney Uni by 14 seconds as well. So it'll be an interesting final. It looks as though we've got a big battle on for all three medals.
Absolutely. Underway in repechage 1 of the under-21 women's Cox Fours, first and second through to the final with the rest eliminated. In lane 2 we have a University of Queensland, Tasmania University and Buckingham composite. In lane 3 it is a Mercantile and UTS Haberfield composite. In lane 4 it's in the Sydney, Adelaide and Adelaide University composite. In lane 5 Loreto Marriotteville, and in lane 6 a crew from the University of Queensland.
So that composite in lane 2 is Signet Hornet from Buckingham Rowing Club in the bow seat. We've got Daisy Maining from Tasmania University in the 2 seat. Claire Taylor and Sophie Lucas, both from the University of Queensland in 3 and stroke, and Chloe Mead is their cox. And we've got no coach listed, but again, a composite that's presumably come together as they come here to national championships. In lane 3, that composite of Mercantile and UTS Haberfield, again cross states. We've got Talia Barbianis from Mercantile in the bow seat. We've got Taylor Kerpiniotis and Sarah Fard from UTS in the middle of the crew, and Harper Waring from Mercs in the stroke seat. Theodore Herbst is their cox. And the coaches are Hallie Chapman, the women's coach at UTS, and Mike Mackay, head coach at Mercantile.
Yeah, and that crew, that Mercantile UTS Haberfield crew in the lead past 1,000 metres. They've got a 4-second lead over the Sydney composite and then another 2 seconds back to the University of Queensland, but only first and second going through to the final. That Sydney composite crew sitting in second. Claire Romaniak from Adelaide University, Grace Seppelt from Adelaide Rowing Club, Eliza Dunlop and Freya Neville from Sydney Rowing Club, and then Mietta Jones is the coxswain, and they're coached by Lachlan Carter and Jurek Hasselgrove.
Still having a busy regatta. We've got Loreto Marriotteville in lane 5. That's Hallie Anderson, Hilary Longstaff, Francesca Lennon and Erin Munger, coxed by Charlotte Lang, and of course coached by Tom Doornbos. And then University of Queensland. So I'm just having a look. So that's the crew that's currently sitting in third, isn't it? So that's Nancy Duncan-Banks in the bow seat, Lucy Hope at 2, Ellie Reedy at 3, and Issy Drew at stroke, with Chelsea Ashby coxing. Their coach is Gus Rodero, who, as we keep hearing, is bound for the QAS. So congratulations to him. Obviously bringing the strength of his coaching to this crew. But the question is, with the lane seeded the way they are going to have enough to get up over the Sydney Rowing Club composite and snatch a place in the final?
Look, they're not going to die wondering by the looks of things. We have the Mercantile composite who are in the lead at the moment, 4 seconds ahead of the Sydney Adelaide University composite, then back to the University of Queensland crew, as you mentioned, Lizzie, in lane 6, so not the easiest lane, and then the University of Queensland, Tasmania University, Buckingham composites in lane 2. So some big finishes coming up here. We've got 250 metres to go in the repechage for the under-21 women's Coxed 4. Mercantile UTS Haberfield composite sitting in the lead at the moment. They've got a boat length over the Sydney composite in lane 4, and then the University of Queensland in lane 6 are going to need a big effort to be able to come through and take the final qualifying position for tomorrow's final. Back a little bit further to the University of Queensland composite and Loreto Marriotteville in lane 5.
But you're absolutely right. This University of Queensland crew is just throwing in the kitchen sink, aren't they? There's so much courage there. They're just chucking in their catches, pushing their legs down as hard as they can, really fighting back hard against that Sydney, Adelaide University composite. They've made it up to a length. The question is, can they overlap? And you can see the Cox looking across now. That's Chelsea Ashby looking across, urging her crew on. The Mercantile Composite have safely crossed the line in first position, and I'm afraid we've run out of room. The Sydney Composite will take that remaining qualifying place for the final, and the University of Queensland crew, a very plucky row, but they will miss out. However, as we said yesterday, lose the race, don't lose the lesson. That was a fantastic row, and congratulations to UQBC.
Absolutely, and what was really tricky conditions going there from lane 6 as well. So to put the crew, and you can just see them at the finish line, they have thrown absolutely everything at that race. So well done to the University of Queensland crew. The University of Queensland, Tasmania University and Buckingham Composite in lane 2, just crossing the line now in 4th, ahead of Loretto Marriotteville in 5th.
Confirming the results of the repechage of the under-21 women's Coxed 4, a win for the Mercantile UTS Haberfield Composite. Second, the Sydney, Adelaide Rowing Club and Adelaide University Composite. These two crews will progress through to the final, and the remainder will be eliminated from the event. That's the University of Queensland crew, the University of Queensland, Tasmania University and Buckingham Composite, and the Loretto Marriotteville crew. Winning time 8 minutes 20.05 and the margin 3.58.
Moving on to race number 269, it's the repechage for the under-21 men's Cox 4, first and second through to the final. In lane 2, we have a West Australian Fremantle Composite. In lane 3, a crew from Sydney Rowing Club. In lane 4, a Griffith University Surfers Paradise and University of Queensland Composite. And in lane 5, a crew from Mercantile Rowing Club.
So it's the West Australian Rowing Club and Fremantle Composite from West Australia that's in the lead at the 1,000-metre mark. That's the crew of Liam Davis and Alex Cacelli and Liam Walker from Fremantle, with Alex Baroni from West Australian Rowing Club in the stroke seat. Cooper Anspach is their Cox. And at the 1,500-metre mark, it looks as though they continue to lead.
Yeah, they're sitting nicely ahead of the crew from Griffith University Surfers Paradise and then the Sydney Rowing Club crew in third. Half a second between the two. Only two of them are going through to the final. That Griffith University Surfers Paradise composite of Edward Miles and Noah Roseman from the University of Queensland, and then Max Taylor and Mackenzie Branch from Griffith University Surfers Paradise. Hannah Scarborough is the Cox, and they're coached by Duncan Free and Michael Russell.
The remaining crew, Sydney Rowing Club crew is James Fredrickson in the bow seat, Tom Livingston at 2, Angus Aitken at 3 and Tom Hart at stroke. Teresa Harris is their Cox.
And then the Mercantile crew in lane 5, Charlie Clark, Edward Finlay, Zach Crawley, Liam Burke, Jemima Howell is the coxswain, and they're coached by Michael McKay and Brendan Scott.
And the crew on the far side, that's the West Australian Fremantle Composite, continue to lead as we come into the last 250 metres. Looks to me as though they have now extended their lead over the two crews in the middle of the course. But Sydney Rowing Club putting in a big push. They clearly are aware that there are only 2 qualifying places, and they really need to do this push now if they're to get past the Griffith University Surfers Paradise University of Queensland Composite. They're looking quite neat, actually, holding it together. Their Cox, Teresa Harris, as in the previous races, obviously looked across, seen the opportunity and seized the day, and they are now making their way past the Griffith University Surfers Paradise crew.
So the West Australian Fremantle Composite in the lead, coming up towards the finish line. Couple of big strokes to go. They'll come through and take the win. Sydney Rowing Club sitting a boat length ahead of Griffith University Surfers Paradise Composite. And with only a couple of strokes left to go, it will be Sydney qualifying for the final. They've managed to hold off the Queenslanders, the Griffith University of Queensland Composite, finishing in third place ahead of the crew from Mercantile in fourth. So a good win there for the West Australians over Sydney Rowing Club.
Indeed, and they will progress through to the final with Griffith Uni Surfers Paradise Uni of Queensland crew and Mercantile now eliminated from the event. For the reference, although it's a bit tricky because there's only one repechage, the time for that win by West Australian Composite was 7 minutes 12.95 seconds and the margin 9.78.
Moving on to race number 270. It's the under-23 women's Coxless Fours. It's a race for lanes, everyone going through to the finals. In lane 2, we have a Canned Pine Rivers Composite. In lane 3, we have a Swan River, West Australian, Sydney, and University of WA, Wace and NSwiss supported composite boat, so a bit of a licorice all sorts there. Adelaide University in lane 4, a Swan River, Melbourne University, Sydney composite in lane 5, a Buckingham, New Norfolk, University of Queensland composite in lane 6, and a North Esk, Buckingham, Tasmania University crew in lane 7.
And one of the reasons for this is the national championships are a qualifying event for the underage, as we call it, national team. So that's the under-23s, the under-21s and the under-19s. And for the under-23s, they are allowed to do composites. And you've got a combination here of people who are seeking selection and people who are simply trying to find somebody to row with. So the canned composite over in lane 2 is Lukey Smith from canned, Georgia Stoddart from Pine Rivers, Rosie Turnbull from canned, Jess Scott from canned, and the coaches there are Scott Rowe and Ray Smith. And you, with the pedigree of those names, you would expect them to be putting their best foot forward. I can't tell. Have we got
sitting just in second place at the moment. They're behind the Swan River, West Australian, Sydney, University of WA composite of Claire Netherway from the University of WA, Lauren Graham from Sydney Rowing Club, Jolie Patterson from the West Australian Rowing Club, and Rebecca Pretorius from the Swan River Rowing Club. They're coached by Mark Beard, Jamie Hewlett and Lachlan Carter.
Adelaide University are in lane 4. That's Sophie Tickner, Caris Jones, Jemima Richter and Cleo Wilson, coached by Jurek Hazelgrove. And then we have another composite with Swan River rower in it. This time we have Neve Graham from Sydney Rowing Club in the bow seat, Sarah De Urai from Melbourne University Boat Club in the 2 seat, and then Georgia Hughes and Leah Franklin from Swan River Rowing Club in the stern pair, coached by Mark Beer, the head coach at Swan River Rowing Club, and Mitch Nelson from Melbourne Uni. So sitting in 4th at the moment is the crew in lane 7 from North Esk, Buckingham and Tasmania University. So our Tasmanians, Anna Blackwell from Tasmania University and her colleague Amy Bain. Jessica Stevens from Buckingham Rowing Club in the 3 seat, Abby Butcher in the stroke seat. And that final crew for us to name is the mixture of Tasmania and Queensland crew, which is in lane 6. That's Phoebe Robinson and Alexandra Rooney from the University of Queensland Boat Club, Molly McCausland from New Norfolk in 3, and Isabel Higgins from Buckingham in the stroke seat. The coaches are Abby Crow and Gus Rodero. But are they in the race? Not sure if they're there. 1, 2, 3. I can see 4 crews. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. So I know somebody did ask me a question earlier of essentially, do we need to row this race for lanes? And my response to that was, why wouldn't you get out there, learn how to cope with these conditions? And since most of them are composites, actually have a row together.
Well, that's the thing, and it gets back to what you were saying, Lizzie, lose the race, take the lesson. So even going down, and particularly in the composite crews, get used to each other, take the lesson from the row.
Yeah,
what is it like at X, Y, Z? What does it look like? Familiarise yourself. How does the crew row? What are the things that we need to work on? So, yeah, but certainly that's Swan River composite crew from Swan River, West Australian Rowing Club, Sydney Rowing Club and the University of WA. Well, they're taking plenty of lessons out of this one of which is that they're very, very quick. So they are sitting very comfortably in the lead. We've got a lot of clear water between them and the canned Pine Rivers composite over in lane 2, and then back a little bit more clear water again between them and the Swan River composite in lane 5. So they're our 3 crews that are looking good for the top 3 lanes, and then back across to the North Esk composite in lane 7. So with a couple of strokes to go, it will be that Swan River, West Australian, Sydney Rowing Club and University of WA crew crossing the line in first place. A very comfortable row there. Second place will go to the canned Pine Rivers composite.
Looking very neat.
Very neat, very tidy. And very efficient too, which is always good to see. And then coming through in third place will be the crew from the other Swan River Composite, Swan River, Melbourne University and Sydney Rowing Club. And then coming through in fourth will be the North Esk, Buckingham and Tasmania University.
And although it's a race for lanes and there's clearly not too much pressure on them, the winning time by the Swan River Wace and Den-Swiss Composite was 7 minutes 55.91. The margin 9.21, 6.69. But again, I don't think we put much store by that because it was more a question of sorting out the lanes for tomorrow. So the danger of not doing a race for lanes, Stuart, then is that if you turn up tomorrow and if you haven't raced today, it means you're going to be put in the least favoured lanes if, as today, we seed the lanes according to the wind conditions. So it's a risk, isn't it? Hopefully a calculated one.
Well, that's it. I mean, I think we saw it yesterday where there was, in one of the under-19 races, where they were in the Cox Stand, the Coxless Fours, and one of them was a race for lanes. I believe it was the Canberra Girls Grammar and Arana Composites. They were in successive races, so obviously it made a little bit more sense for them to go down in the Coxed race. Given that the Coxless one was the race for lanes, because remember we talked about it and there's, actually, they're not there. But so yeah, it's.
So of course the other option is that the crew has had to scratch, and I must say, and again a timely reminder to all of us that we know a few crews and a few state teams have been impacted by people testing positive for COVID. So just a reminder to everybody, if you, as soon as you're aware that an athlete is out, if you could please have a look at the crews, get up here to the finish tower or athlete services and make sure you make the withdrawals and the crew changes as early as possible, and particularly before close of play today, because we really don't want to have to be rearranging things first thing tomorrow morning. So really try and make that decision today.
Absolutely, and also allows for the, where necessary, for heats, for repecharges to be combined if possible, so particularly if you have to scratch out. So
that's true.
It is understandable where COVID is unfortunately still a part of everyday life.
Day-to-day living, that's absolutely right. Okay, we have a race underway now, which is a heat. So no, it's not. It's a race for lanes. Open men's, under 23 men's, Coxless 4, so another race for lanes. Let's see who turns up. Scheduled to race is Melbourne University in lane 2, Sydney University Boat Club in lane 3, a composite from West Australia of Swan River and West Australian in lane 4, a crew from the Melbourne University in lane 5, and a composite between Cand and Mossman in lane 6. So again, under 23. So again, we're looking at people who are vying for selection in the national team here. So a few composites.
A few composites in there, but there did look to be 5 crews coming down the course. So we do have everybody coming down the course in this, the under 23 men's Coxless 4. This is the race for lanes. So in the far side, we have a Melbourne University crew of Tom Murray, Charlie Batruni, Hamish Winpope and Nicholas Vlachodimitropoulou, coached by Matt Ryan. In lane 3, from Sydney University Boat Club, Henry Ryan, Kieran Riach. There will have been a substitution for Nick Miro and Ryan Gibson in the stroke seat, with Chris Holliday and Tom Lorridge, the coaches. The composite from West Australia in lane 4 is Gus Laufman from West Australian Rowing Club, Riley Rees-Turner, Hayden Coote and Johnson Daubney from Swan River Rowing Club. They are supported by the West Australian Institute of Sport, coached by Mark Beer and Jamie Hewlett. In lane 5, the Melbourne University crew, Harry Fox, Fraser Miss Campbell, Nick Smith and William Ackerman, coached by Matt Ryan, which is supported by the Victorian Institute of Sport, and a final Institute-supported crew, which is Nick Pender from Mossman, Torben Ungemach from Mossman, both of whom are on training agreements with the New South Wales Institute of Sport, Angus McCasker from Cand and Miller Rowe from Cand, who is a QAS athlete. And at the 500 metre mark, Lizzie, we do have the crew from Melbourne University in the lead, leading Sydney University. So Melbourne University in lane 5, leading Sydney University in lane 3, then back to the second Melbourne University crew in lane 2, then Swan River and the Cand Mossman composite. But only about less than 4 seconds between all of our crews coming through the 500 metre mark. So again, I think we're in for an interesting race here. They are looking as we've mentioned on the Race for Lanes, they are looking to try and get the best lanes possible. There is a little bit more wind forecast for tomorrow as well, so it is important to try and get yourselves in that best lane possible, particularly when they do the draws later on this evening. But that Melbourne University crew still sitting in the lead. They've got a second lead ahead of Sydney University, and then back to the Melbourne University crew in lane 2, sitting in third. Swan River Composite in fourth, and then the Cairn Mossman Composite in fifth place. So, and still only about 4 seconds between all of our crews. So still not all that much difference, still plenty to row for in this, the one and only heat of the under-23 men's Coxless 4 event. Coming up after this one, we do have the Open Women's Coxless 4 event, so some big names rowing down there before we move on to the under-17 women's Coxed Quad Sculls, a few heats there. So coming up towards the 1500 metre mark in the under-23 men's Coxless 4s, it's still Melbourne University leading Sydney University, being pushed hard by the Melbourne University crew in lane 2, and then our 2 composites from Swan River and from WA and from Queensland. Oh, the Cairn Mossman composite, sorry, so certainly not all from Queensland there, but again, not a lot between all of our 5 crews in this race for lane. As they coming up towards the 1500 metre mark, it's still Sydney University and Melbourne University. So Sydney University have moved ahead, but only just 0.4 of a second between first and second. Melbourne University in lane 2, sitting in third, 2 seconds ahead of Swan River West Australian Rowing Club composite, and then back to the Cairn Mossman composite in 5th place. But again, still only about 6 seconds from first through to 5th. It's an exciting finish coming up as they're approaching now the 1750 metre mark. We've nearly got just over 250 metres to go. Sydney University leading Melbourne University, Swan River West Australian composite, and the Cairn Mossman composite. We're in now to the last 250 metres. It's still Sydney University in the lead. Melbourne University are pushing back though. Have they got enough? Are they going to be able to take that good lane? You can see all of our crews now just start to up their rating as they're coming up towards the last 200 metres. The Melbourne University crew in lane 2 also putting in a big push. Our 2 composites just starting to drop off a little bit. The Cairn Mossman composite probably sitting just ahead of the Swan River West Australian composite in lane 3.
What a great battle again between Sydney University and Melbourne University. The rivalry is alive and well.
And Sydney University have the slight edge in this chapter of the rivalry, but Melbourne University in lane 5 are pushing hard. We're down to the last 75 metres. Melbourne University have now started to pull ahead. They've put in some big strokes, some power down through the slide, and they will come through and win by half a boat length ahead of Sydney University. Melbourne University in lane 2 finishing in third ahead of the Cairn Mossman composite in lane 5, and then back to the Swan River West Australian composite in lane 4. So a good win there for Melbourne University. They'd been taken. They were a boat length down, coming past the 200 with 250 metres to go, and then coming through and being able to row through that Sydney University crew. It's going to be a great final tomorrow, Lizzie.
It certainly is, and I think that's a great opportunity, isn't it? The race for lanes, a good opportunity to put yourself under pressure without there being a pressure on the result. That will sort out the lanes for tomorrow, with Melbourne University VIS crew having the favoured lane, Sydney University finishing second, Melbourne University finishing third, the Cairn and Mossman composite finishing fourth, and Swan River West Australian composite finishing fifth. In race 272, the provisional time 6 minutes 50.94.
Race number 273 is underway. It's the one and done heat for the women's Open Coxless Fours. In lane 2, it's a crew from the University of Queensland. In lane 3, Melbourne University. In lane 4, Adelaide University of Queensland and UTS Haberfields Composite, also supported by the South Australian Sports Institute, the Queensland Academy of Sport and the New South Wales Institute of Sport. In lane 5, it's Sydney University, supported by the New South Wales Institute of Sport. In lane 6, Mercantile and Sydney Composite. And then in lane 7, Fremantle, Swan River and West Australian Rowing Club Composite, as Lizzie Chapman leaves and Chris McCarthy joins us. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Stuart. Good afternoon. I went for a little bit of a stroll about the boat park, but it's rather uncivilised with the wind out there, so I thought I'd retreat back to the commentary box to bring you this race for lanes in the Open Women's Coxless 4, looking to compete on, well, they'll all be competing on Saturday morning, and some pretty star-studded lineups here. Most of these crews are a combination or mix thereof of National Training Centre athletes in this one.
Yeah, and leading at the moment through the 1,000 metres is the Mercantile Composite in lane 6. Anna Kirkwood from Mercantile, Sarah Hoare from Sydney Rowing Club, Paige Barr from Mercantile, as is Katrina Werry, and they're coached by Michael Mackay.
Yeah, a little bit of a Kaiser Cup combination there. For those of you who don't know, the Kaiser Cup's contested between Mercantile and Sydney Rowing Club every other year, named after the great Phil Kaiser, who coached at both clubs, and both clubs joining up now is Sarah Hoare from Sydney Rowing Club, joining Anna Kirkwood, Paige Barr and Katrina Werry from Mercantile Rowing Club, and looking to be doing quite a good job of it at the head of the field with a 2.6 second margin over the Melbourne University crew at the 1,000 metre timing mark.
Yeah, that Melbourne University crew, Miller Marston, Eliza Gaffney, Jean Mitchell and Lucy Stefan, coached by Mitchell Nelson. And then sitting in third place are the Fremantle Swan River West Australian Composite, Genevieve Hart, Georgia Patton, Jackie Swick and Annabelle McIntyre.
Yeah, so a few star-studded names, quite a few Olympians dotted about the field, with pretty much all of our top 3 crews and a few others featuring members of the women's 8, 4 and pair. So making for great racing as these ladies seek to contest the Herald and Weekly Times Trophy on Saturday morning. Still the Mercantile Sydney combination in first place, ahead of Melbourne University, and the Fremantle Composite in third, coming through the 1,500 metre mark here. And all crews settling into their rhythm with a quite substantial margin sitting between them, upwards of sort of 3.5 seconds, bit over a boat length between each crew. So not too much to change in the last 500 metres at this stage.
Our final 2 crews from this race, Sydney University in lane 5, Kate Rowan, Eleanor Price, Jamie Ford, Georgie Gleeson, coached by Alfie Young, Jack Hanley and Donald McLaughlin. And then the Adelaide University of Queensland UTS Haberfield Composite of Emma Fessy from UTS, Lily Olsen from University of Queensland, Molly Goodman from Adelaide and Ella Bramwell also from Adelaide, coached by Jason Lane and Christine McLaren. As they're coming up now, past the 250 metre mark, it is the Mercantile Sydney Composite who have the lead ahead of the Melbourne University crew in lane 3, and it does look like we're missing a couple of crews here again. The
so I think
University
that
of
Adelaide
Queensland
Composite and the University of Queensland might be missing this one. We did say not a qualification event, so you don't have to turn up to the race for lanes, but in my opinion, it is a pretty good idea given the what we saw this morning with the crosswinds happening.
Melbourne University really putting in some big strokes now. They've potentially getting up nice and close to that Mercantile Sydney Composite. So it's between Melbourne University and the Mercantile Sydney Composite coming up towards the finish line. 50 metres to go. Mercantile Sydney Composite pushing away though. They saw the danger, pushed away and win by a boat length over the Melbourne University crew in second. And then coming through in third place will be the crew from WA, the Fremantle Swan River West Australian Rowing Club crew, and then they'll finish ahead of the Sydney University crew in lane 5. So a win there for the Mercantile Sydney crew in lane 6, second going to Melbourne University, third to the Fremantle Swan River West Australian Composite, and fourth to Sydney University.
Back down onto the course now. We've got race number 274 on your program. Back to some heats now. The first heat of the under-17 women's Cox Quadruple Scull. The progression for this one, the first place crew will move through to the semi-final, and the rest to repêchages to fish again, as we've been informed by Lizzie Chapman. And as we get this race underway, I'll say farewell to Stuart John and welcome back to Richard Dorstein in the commentary box.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, I can't pretend to have Lizzie's French pronunciation quite yet sorted out, but we'll get to say the word repêchage a few more times before the end of the week in any case.
So, in the first heat of the women's under-17 Cox Quadruple Scull, in a lane, full field of 7 crews in this one. In lane 1, Kinross Walleroy. In lane 2, Canberra Girls Grammar. In lane 3, Queenwood. In lane 4, St Catherine's. From St Catherine's from New South Wales, I might be clear. In lane 5, Loretto Normanhurst. In lane 6, Canberra Grammar. And in lane 7, Wendouree Ballarat.
And they have come through 500 metres. And it was, yes, St Catherine's of Sydney leading here. Of course, there is also a St Catherine's of Melbourne, who I think we will see later on, if not today, certainly in the school events over the next few days. But this is St Catherine's New South Wales. Sienna Morgan, Layla Gaston, Madeline Swain, Jade Bliss and Jasmine Abela, the Cox, coached by Jared Watson, Richard Coakley and Abby Gibbs. And they lead this race by pretty sizable margin, I think, Chris, over the first 500 metres. They're 4.8 seconds back to Canberra Girls Grammar and also Kinross Walleroy.
Kinross Walleroy, a few familiar names that we've seen throughout the week already. That's the crew of Jemima Scammell, Sophie Lulf, Olivia Searle, Tessa Wong, and their Cox Emily Caro, coached there by James Perrin. Some familiar names and some familiar siblings, I believe. A lot of family rowing going on there at Kinross Walleroy, and a lot of success as well. As we've mentioned a few times, their first 8 winning the New South Wales Schoolgirls Head of the River last weekend, and now backing up in quite a few events this week at the Australian Rowing Championships.
Yeah. And well placed here, but it's first only through to the semi-final from this race. So St Catherine's, the Sydney crew there in lane 4, certainly can you take early advantage here in this big field of 7 in the under-17 women's Cox Quad Scull. I think there was a series of 4 heats in this race too, so a lot of entries here in the under-17 women's event. As have been most of course, the under-17 women's single, such a big event, it required quarterfinals this morning. We've got to hang around for an extra hour or so this afternoon to get through the semi-finals of that race, which will take place just after 4 o'clock to give those girls adequate recovery time after their race too. But St Catherine's extend their lead here in Heat 1 of the under-17 women's Quad Scull. They are out by almost 10 seconds now over Canberra Girls Grammar in second place. So reaching the final quarter shortly at least of the first heat here in the under-17 women's Cox Quad Scull, and St Catherine's just do look like they continue to extend their lead there in the centre of the course. They lane 2, Canberra Girls Grammar, chasing them with some enthusiasm, looking for the only qualifying spot straight through to the semi-final of the under-17 women's Cox Quad Scull. So these repêchages will be on tomorrow's program. The semis then on Friday and the finals on Saturday for the under-17 women's Cox Quad Scull. So a day off for the race winners here. And St Catherine's may well have extended that margin once again. It was 9.95 seconds at half distance. Now 13.27 seconds. Their lead over Canberra Girls Grammar School. Frankie Bush, Samantha Burns, Alex Perry-Dalton, Eliza Lilly and Olivia Crawford, coached by Vance Kahn and Carolyn Pipers, the Canberra Girls Grammar combination. Queenwood now are up into third. Annie Sieve, Addison Rolls, Heidi Boyd, Imogen Gray and Angela Hand, coached by Kieran Glynn, Ray Boyle and Gemma Campbell. And then it's Kinross Walleroy, the next crew in the race, who were in third place in the earlier stages, I think. Wendouree Ballarat, Canberra Grammar with 2 crews in the race, and Loretto Normanhurst in 7th. In fact, Canberra Grammar and Canberra Girls Grammar, the other crew. So two
different
separate
schools, as I was corrected very well by Kendall Brody this morning, who's coach at, I don't even want to get it wrong again, one of those schools.
One of those 2 schools, yes. But so Canberra Grammar is the lane 6 combination here in 6th place. Canberra Girls Grammar, the race leaders. So I assume Canberra Grammar are co-educational school.
Yes.
And Canberra Girls Grammar, a bit like Northern Beaches Secondary, as the name suggests, are a school in Canberra for girls. And they're sitting here in 2nd place, at least in this race still, but well away from our race leaders. So St Catherine's of Sydney, the combination of Sienna Morgan, Layla Gaston, Madeline Swain, Jade Bliss and Jasmine Abula, the cocks of that crew from St Catherine's, who continue to maintain a very comfortable lead over Canberra Girls Grammar. Queenwood still, then Kinross Walleroy, and a good race between the remaining 3 crews in the race. Wendouree Ballarat leading Canberra Grammar and Loretto Normanhurst narrowly for 5th, 6th and 7th. But straight through to the final of the Under-17 Women's Cox Quad Scull goes the crew from St Catherine's of Sydney. They win race at 274, the first heat of 4 in a big field here in the Under-17 Women's Cox Quad Scull. 2nd place to Canberra Girls Grammar School. 3rd should be Queenwood, just ahead of Kinross Walleroy. And then the remaining 3 crews to come home, probably in reverse lane order. Wendouree Ballarat look like they'll be 5th. Canberra Grammar in 6th. And Loretto Normanhurst in 7th place.
So just confirming the results of that one. Race 274, the Under-17 Women's Cox Quadruple Scull. 1st place and qualifying through to our semi-finals, St Catherine's School, New South Wales. 2nd place and joining the rest of the crews in progressing to the repechage, Canberra Girls Grammar, followed by Queenwood, Kinross Walleroy, Wendouree Ballarat, Canberra Grammar and Loretto Normanhurst. And back down on the course now, just those fantastic pictures from our starting tower. We have the 2nd heat of the Under-17 Women's Cox Quadruple Scull. Again, quite a full field. So in lane number 2, Loretto Normanhurst. In lane number 3, a Yarra Yarra composite, which is actually a 3-club composite. We've got Rhea Werner from Yarra Yarra, Philippa Young and Catherine Wilcock from Mossman Rowing Club, and Adelaide Robb from Commercial, I believe. And crews coxed by Elysia Sirotic. In lane 4, Rockhampton Grammar. In lane 5, Gippsland Grammar. In lane 6 and lane 7, we've got Loretto, 2 crews representing from Loretto Toorak.
Thought it was CRC was Commercial, Chris, but it's actually the Coral Rowing Club.
Okay.
CRC, the acronym does belong to a couple of different clubs, but this is a predominantly Victoria. Well, Coral, of course, in New South Wales, but race mainly in Victorian regattas located just to the north of the Murray River, but also Catherine Willock here from Mossman in Sydney in that crew, and Philippa Young of Mossman, along with Rhea Werner of Yarra Yarra, the combination there on lane 3. So yes, a 2-state composite crew, Yarra Yarra, Mossman, and also the Corowa Rowing Club, and they the lane 3 combination. The race being led, I would think, by Rockhampton Grammar School, lane 4, beside that composite crew. That's Greta McCosker, Asher Stewart, Georgia Brennan, Carolyn Sparks, and Austin Alloway. Rob Fay and Caitlin Hawkins, the coaches there at the Rockhampton Grammar School. Always a strong program there on the Fitzroy River in Rockhampton, and always big contributors to the national championships year on year. 2 crews also from Loretto Toorak, lanes 6 and 7. They will be, as always, in the blue, well, 1 crew in a blue boat, 1 crew in a white boat. Actually, Loretto generally rowing in those distinctive blue shells, as is the one closest to the camera there, the lane 7 combination. Zoe Kritikides, Annabelle Bamford, Molly Conquest, Bianca Court and Sophia Woods, coached by Alexander Clark, but they trail the other Loretto Toorak combination: Olivia Hope, Alexandra Fairchild, Charlotte Grant, Maisie Richards, Lucy March and Luke Brusco, the coach of that Loretto crew. As we look still for just one crew to qualify here, and
it's definitely looking like Rockhampton Grammar sitting there, just a little bit of clear water, but not quite as decided as our previous heat. Catherine's took a fairly commanding lead fairly early on. It is things a little bit tighter here in the second heat, but Rockhampton Grammar certainly making the most of those choppy conditions out there on the course. The wind has turned just a touch, and it's a pretty straight headwind down at the in the first half of the course. The first half of the course, at least, it's not too choppy down here. Things possibly looking a little bit fairer across the lanes as well this afternoon, I might guess.
yes, I think so. No, I had a quick step outside the protected confines of the finish tower a little while ago, and there is quite a wind blowing down the course, but dust was the biggest thing to avoid outside when I looked recently. So plenty of dust clouds blowing along the side of the lake here, but certainly, yes, you'd have to say relatively fair conditions, especially for these bigger boats now as we move through to some quad scull and 8th racing to come later in the day as well, as that wind is near to blowing straight down the course here, which will make it a bit longer for these under 17 quad sculls. Many of these rowers certainly have had a series of races already today, although some appearing for the first time. I don't think Loretto Toorak have been in a race so far at this regatta, so they will be fresh, those 2 crews in lanes 6 and 7, after a big campaign at the head of the schoolgirls came to its climax in Geelong a week and a half ago. But Rockhampton Grammar School still our race leaders. They've narrowed it slightly to 4.1 seconds from the chasing Loretto Toorak lane 6 combination. So Rockhampton Grammar in the qualifying spot, Loretto lane 6 in second, and the Yarra Yarra, Corowa and Mossman composite crew would be third. Then the second of the Loretto crews, lane 7. Gippsland Grammar in 5, and Loretto Normanhurst in lane 2. The full field in the second heat of the under-17 women's coxed quad scull.
A couple of different Loretto schools representing. I just had a little bit of a peek down the program. We're seeing another all-Loretto composite crew a little bit later on, the under-19 equivalent of this event, or the coxless quadruple scull.
Is this the Lorettos from Adelaide and Sydney again? Marriotteville and the Sydney equivalent, yes, who combined yesterday, I think, in the under-19. So it's probably the same crew, in fact, in the under-19
yes.
women's 8, who raced the heats yesterday, and will be in the repechage towards the end, I think, of today's program. Yeah, race 286 at 2:55 p.m. Loretto Kirribilli and Loretto Marriotteville. But it is Loretto Toorak in this race. Also Loretto Ballarat will race in a couple of races' time. And Loretto Normanhurst, of course, over in lane 2 of this race as well. So we do have all the Lorettos across the various races. There are a number of school crews, of course, competing in these under-17 and under-19 races. And Rockhampton Grammar School continue to lead this race. They came through, they're about to come through 1500 at least, so we'll get a closer check on the time, and probably has narrowed up at the head of the field to a little, and the Loretto Toorak crew lane 6 is chasing hard, our race leaders, but the Rockhampton Grammar School continue to be the leading crew, just under a length now, so the 4-second lead becomes 2.15 seconds now with 500 metres to race. And Yarra Yarra, Corowa and Mossman about 2.5 seconds back. So we could be in for a good finish here as these leading crews fight for just one qualifying spot through to the final of the under-17 women's Coxed Quad Scull. Where the headwind may make things interesting too, Chris, with these younger crews over 2,000 metres. A lot of the Victorian crews certainly would only have raced over 1,000 or in some cases 1,500 metres in a lot of the regattas, especially the ones held down in Geelong where the river only has a 1,500 metre course with a couple of slight bends as well to add to the excitement.
No, it's the same for all of the Sydney crews. Traditionally racing 1,500 metres, even at the regattas at the Sydney International Regatta Centre, they're racing a 1,500 metre course. So always a little bit of a step up when they come to the national championships and have to race 2,000 metres. So girls really in the feeling that extra 500 metres now as they cross the 1,750 metre mark, and definitely looks like the Loreto Toorak crew in lane 6 making a good push and being followed by the Yarra Yarra Composite. Perhaps that little battle for second place just catching up on the crew from Rockhampton Grammar in the centre of the course, who have led from the start of the race. But it is still Rockhampton Grammar out the front. But we'll see as they come down further to the line how much that has tightened up.
So yes, Loreto Toorak there, lane 6, crew coached by Luke Brusco. So I think that might even be the Year 9 Division 1 Quad Scull, who are unlucky at the head of the schoolgirls, looking for some redemption here at the National Championship, but still sit probably half a length or so behind the Rockhampton Grammar School in the centre of the course. And the Yarra Yarra Mossman Corowa, the 3-club, 2-state composite crew over in lane 3, continues to push hard, but Rockhampton Grammar School have led this race from the start and they continue to hold on by almost a length, so they will be the qualifier from Heat 2 of the Under-17 Women's Cox Quad Scull. It is Rockhampton Grammar School first, tight for second, Loreto Toorak just, I think, although I'll defer to the expert of photo finishes beside me here, we think Loreto may have got second place. And
I wasn't quite ready for that one. I don't think I'll put in a call. If I'd had to say, I would have actually said the Yarra Yarra Composite, but let's let the judges get that one.
Let's wait on the photo there. Rockhampton Grammar School certainly the race winners. There was no doubt about that. They won it by a neat length, 2.79 seconds unofficially, as they came across. And at this stage, the computer's saying Loreto Toorak second, but it will be the repechage for them. In any event, Loreto Toorak also there in 4th place. That was the lane 7 crew. In the blue boat, very tight also there between Gippsland Grammar and Loreto Normanhurst. Gippsland 5th, Loreto Normanhurst 6th, as they're across the line in race 275.
Back down to the start line now. We see the third of 4 heats for the women's under-17 Cox Quadruple Scull. In lane 2, we have Furbank Grammar. In lane 3, composite of the Swan River Rowing Club, Sydney Rowing Club, Fremantle Rowing Club, and Nepean Rowing Club. So a 4-club, 2-state composite, 3-state composite. 2-state composite in that one. So a little bit all over the place with that one. And then Ballarat Clarendon in lane 4, Loreto Marriotteville in 5, Pymble Ladies College in lane 6, and then a composite with St Patrick's College in Townsville and Centenary Rowing Club.
Yes, it's a 2-state composite crew from 4 clubs spanning the width of the country from Sydney to Perth in that lane 3 Swan River composite combination, and it's a well put together composite crew as we look down the course and see them very comfortably in front here in this third heat. In fact, it is now the under-17 women's Cox Quad Scull. So the winners of the previous 2 heats straight through to the semi-finals. St Catherine Sydney in the first heat and Rockhampton Grammar School in the race just completed. Rockhampton Grammar, of course, with a very rich history in this event, the under-17 women's Cox Quad Scull, with plenty of success at the Nationals over the last, couple of decades really, for the Rockhampton Grammar School, who won that previous race. And this time it is Swan River, Sydney, Fremantle and Nepean looking to add a convincing heat win to the collection here. So they lead by a considerable margin, 12.25 seconds in fact now, over Ballarat Clarendon in second place in lane 4. The leading crew is Olivia Harris from Nepean, Lila Five from Fremantle, Neve Tierney of Sydney Rowing Club, and Greta Spencer from Swan River Rowing Club, coxed by Alessia Sirocco, coached by Mark Beer, Brendan Longman and Daniel Waddell. And Ballarat Clarendon, certainly the best of the chasers there. Phoebe Ma, Maya Salmi, Tia Kirsanovs, Delaney Troon and Molly Cooper, coached by John King and Matt Olver.
Didn't mention best of the chasers. I would say that it's largely academic, really, for the chase. It's they're a fair while ahead of their competition.
Absolutely.
Without mentioning coming a little bit unstuck there, but back moving again. But it is the Fremantle, Sydney, Swan River and Nepean Rowing Club combination well out in front of the field, just taking a nice cruisy paddle down to the line, saving some energy for their semi-final, I believe, to be in tomorrow afternoon's program.
This is another crew you would imagine who may not have trained together too much with two Perth athletes and two Sydney athletes. It would have been a bit difficult in the months leading up to this regatta to arrange for a meeting of these 5 athletes. But yes, some training by Zoom is about all they could do. I'm not sure how that works in an under-17 Cox Quad Scull, but whatever they did, it appears to be paying off in what may well be one of their first races together. The Swan River Composite crew on lane 3, who will record a very comfortable win here in a few strokes' time in the 3rd heat of the under-17 women's Cox Quad Scull. Ballarat Clarendon still second. Loretto Marriotteville from Adelaide currently 3rd. Pymble Ladies there, along with Furbank Grammar on the far side, and St Pat's, Townsville and also Centenary. But across the line goes our race winners: Olivia Harris, Lila Five, Neve Tierney, Greta Spencer and Alessia Sirocco, the crew there from those 4 different clubs from 2 states: Swan River, Sydney, Fremantle and Nepean. Second place, Ballarat Clarendon, who will get a second chance in tomorrow's repechage. Loretto Marriotteville next across the line. Pymble Ladies from Sydney in 4th place. Furbank Grammar of Melbourne will be 5th. And St Pat's, Townsville and Centenary, another composite crew from opposite ends of Queensland there, will finish in 6th position.
Back down on to the course now, the 4th and final heat of the under-17 women's Coxed Quadruple Scull. In lane number 2, we have Commercial. In lane 3, Radford College. In lane 4, Buckingham Composite. In lane 5, Radford College. In lane 6, Loretto Ballarat. And in lane 7, Trinity Lutheran.
Far more used to seeing the Ballarat schools at the head of a Coxed Fours race, but this is the under-17 women's Coxed Quadruple Scull, and this is a decent combination from Loretto Ballarat, who have their boat scheduled, in fact their entire school, right beside the finish line of the 1956 Olympic course at Lake Wendouree in Ballarat, which will also host the Australian Masters National Championships in a couple of months' time, the Lake Wendouree course. So Loretto Ballarat in the distinctive yellow colours, certainly showing up here comfortably clear of the rest of the field. Not quite as comfortably as the Swan River Composite crew were in the previous race, who won it in the end by, I think, a margin well over 12 seconds. But still, it is a comfortable lead to Loretto Ballarat. 3.98 seconds it was at the halfway mark of this race over Radford College of the ACT. They're in 2nd place. So the Loretto crew: Anna Howard, Daisy Darbin, Laura Antrobus, Bridget O'Brien and Madison Kale. And Radford, Emily Brennan, Chloe Miller, Coco Gunter, Envy Gupta and Zara Layton, coached by Maggie Noonan and Craig Muller.
Loretto Ballarat, not the only representatives from one of the many rowing schools in Ballarat. Also got in the Buckingham crew in 3rd place. It is a composite with Ballarat City and India Ross, the sole representative of Ballarat City in that one, joined by Holly Teal, Hannah Wigston, Elizabeth Ralph and their cox Gabriel Hill, their coach Hamish Johnson, all from Buckingham down in Tasmania.
Yeah, well spotted, Chris. So the BCRC rowing with the BRC in that race. You've got to look carefully for these acronyms to all make sense. But yes, one row from the Ballarat City Rowing Club. Also one of the many substantial boat sheds that do surround Lake Wendouree in Ballarat. It really is an amazing rowing city, Ballarat, having spent a bit of time there at a few regattas over the last few months. And the intense competition between the Ballarat schools is really something to behold. But in this case, it's Loretto Ballarat taking on the best of the rest of the country as well. Radford College from the ACT, and the other crew on the far side is Commercial. It's the Commercial Rowing Club from Brisbane there in what looks like a Nudgee College boat, in fact. They do share a boat shed, well, a boat shed complex at West End in Brisbane with Commercial, Nudgee College and All Hallows there, along with Rowing Queensland's shed facilities and a couple of other boats kept there as well, right alongside where Brisbane Girls Grammar and Brisbane Boys Grammar also train, although many of those sheds have been affected badly by the floods in recent weeks. But it is that Commercial boat on the far side vying for second place and maybe looking out to come late after Loretto Ballarat, who are holding on still ahead of Radford College. So it's really only a race for second and third, but they'll both have to go via the repechage because it is the crew from Loretto Ballarat who continue to lead and will get across and take the win here in the fourth and final heat of the under-17 women's Cox Quad Scull by about 2/3 of a length. So it was a good finish from Commercial there on the far side. Rose Ricks, Abby Wex, Melena Wilcox, Bethany Harvest and Mandela Chaudhry there, coached by David Vanders. Third place was Radford College on lane 5. Fourth goes to the Buckingham and Ballarat City Composite crew. Very tight too for 5th and 6th. Probably Trinity Lutheran just ahead of the second crew from Radford College on lane 6. But again, it's a fairly comfortable qualification, although in the end anyway 1.83 seconds the unofficial margin there for Loretto Ballarat over the crew from Commercial in second place. And both that heat was about 9 seconds slower than the previous heat. So Swan River and the Swan River Composite crew to be the fastest qualifier. No, in fact, it was St Catherine's in the first heat, winning in 8:25. So an interesting spread of times, but we can't take too much from those, especially in these headwind conditions.
So from the women's to the men's, we've now got race number 278 underway, the first heat of the under-17 men's Cox Quadruple Scull. In lane 2, Kinross Walleroy. In lane 3, Canberra Grammar. In lane 4, Nudgee. In lane 5, Centenary. In lane 6, Brighton Grammar. And in lane 7, Durham Island College from the ACT.
So 4 heats again in the under-17 men's Cox Quad Scull. Now again a pretty big field with 6 entrants in fact in most of these heats. So it's the same progression as the women's, first only through to the semi-final. And it was pretty close at 1,000 metres for the race leader. It was Canberra Grammar narrowly, but Kinross Walleroy pushing through. Look to have taken the lead now through 1,500 metres by almost a length from Nudgee and Canberra Grammar dropping back. So the top 3 reversed over the last 500 metres. And it is Kinross all of a sudden who find themselves in front at the business end of the race. Nicholas Tancred, Tom Day, Oscar Cleary, Oliver Smith and Angus Peterson, the Cox, the crew coached by Benjamin Watt there over on lane 2 on the far side of Lake Ngambie, who have now got themselves in the qualifying position ahead of Nudgee and also Canberra Grammar. Kinross Walleroy and now Nudgee College looking to make a late charge here again in that dark blue boat against the light blue boat of Kinross. They've certainly both gone past Canberra Grammar School lane 3, so it's again just one spot to be decided here in the to the semi-finals of the men's Cox under 17 quad scull. Nudgy, Max Strickland, Rona May, Will Enders, George Curry and Orlando Reed. But Kinross have responded to the challenge in powerful style here in the closing strokes. They have suddenly lifted and raced as if this was the final. Now they're going to win this by clear water in the end. A great finish from Kinross Walleroy, who let Nudgy get close and gave them a taste and then just pushed away. And they'll finish 2 lengths clear. So that's a great finish from Kinross Walleroy over in lane 2. They'll take out the first heat of the men's under 17 Cox Quad Scull. Nudgy looking over their shoulders, wondering where Kinross suddenly went to. That was an explosive finish. Nudgy College in second place will go to the repechage. Canberra Grammar, who led for the first half of the race, finish in third. And then it will be Centenary next in the orange high-vis caps, which are very useful, I can assure you, on the Brisbane River. And Darren Marlin College will finish in 5th place, and Brighton Grammar in 6th.
Yeah, Kinross having a good time out there, really. Playing with their food a little bit.
They did seem to
just
be.
toying with them.
Absolutely.
It's, great to watch. So as our last crew come across the line, confirming the results are there. Kinross Walleroy in first place, moving straight through to our semi-final. And then to the repechage, second place, Nudgy College. Third, Canberra Grammar. Fourth, Centenary. Fifth, Brighton Grammar. And sixth, Darramarlin College, the ACT. Back down on the course now, we'll see race 279, the second of these 4 heats of the under-17 men's Coxed Quadruple Scull. In lane 2, Hunter Valley Grammar. In lane 3, Scotch College from Victoria. In lane 4, Prince Alfred College. In lane 6, Caulfield Grammar. In lane 7, a composite crew between Newcastle Grammar, Mossman Rowing Club and St Augustine School in New South Wales. And in lane 7, a second crew from the Scotch College in Victoria.
So Prince Alfred College from Adelaide in South Australia, the early leaders and the convincing leaders too through the first quarter of this race. They've well through 500 metres now, heading up towards the halfway mark in fact. But certainly the Prince Alfred College crew is showing at it. But the crew on screen there is the second place crew, I suspect, with a range of different Zooties there. That might be the composite crew in lane 6, Newcastle Grammar, Mossman and St Augustine's it would be in second place. But they've narrowed it back to just under a length now, 2.36 seconds behind Prince Alfred College, who lead. And then Hunter Valley Grammar, another Newcastle crew there in third place. 2 crews from Scotch College, Melbourne, in lanes 3 and 7, who are pretty close together but battling out at the moment for 4th and 5th position. So we look for the winner only again from this second heat of the under-17 men's quad scull, who will go straight through to the semi-finals and secure the day off tomorrow. Although I'd envisage many of these crews will also be in the heats of the school events, which they take place on Thursday afternoon's program, so they're probably back out in the water tomorrow in any case, a number of these combinations.
Looks like a good race happening in the centre of the course there actually. The Newcastle Grammar, Mossman, St Augustine's combination really challenging our early race leaders of Prince Alfred College from South Australia. Obviously only one qualifying spot directly through to the semi-final, and the Mossman, St Augustine's, Newcastle Grammar combination really pushing for it now. And we'll see as they come through the 1500 metre marker where they sit, but I do suspect
They
they've got
might
their
narrowly
rivals
be in front,
there.
it looks like.
3 clubs or schools represented there, but Mossman and St Augustine's rowing out of the same shed and often sharing a lot of facilities and a lot of training together. So
this crew may have had some
little.
training experience. It does look like it from the way they're going through the middle stages of this race as well.
yeah, and they are ahead, just 2.2 seconds ahead of the early race leaders, Prince Alfred College, at the 1500 metre mark. Bit of a gap then back to the Hunter Valley Grammar School combination in third place, who are in turn quite a way in front of the remainder of the field at that three-quarter timing point.
So the composite crew there is Tom McGee of St Augustine's, Oscar St Pierre of St Augustine's, who I think rode together in a double scull race earlier today as well. Lachlan Fraser of Mossman and the stroke seat Kaylin Radley of Newcastle Grammar. They're coxed by Ryder Taylor, and they certainly lead this race increasingly comfortably, it would seem, out there in the still windy and slightly refreshing conditions, it appears, out there on Lake Ngami. But they lead from Prince Alfred College of Adelaide. Edward Chappell, Hugo Knight, Sam Stanell, Louis Dawson and Alex Hamoud there coxing the PAC combination, who did have the race lead for the first 1,000 metres, so gave themselves every chance of the top spot. And now they do start to wind up again, the Prince Alfred College combination. A bit of ground to make up on our race leaders, but they are going to have a red hot crack at this, I think, the crew from PAC. These top two have gone well clear of the rest of the field. Hunter Valley Grammar, the far side, probably still third. Then two crews from Scotch College and also Caulfield Grammar in lane 5. But Prince Alfred College, you might need your photo finish eyes ready here, Chris. They're getting closer and closer, but probably not quite close enough. With only 3 or 4 strokes to go, the composite crew have seen off the challenge, and they'll hold clear by about half a length or so as they come across now. It is a win to the Newcastle Grammar composite crew in lane 6. They are straight through to the semis of the under-17 men's coxed quad scull, but they did have to work a bit more than we thought they might in the closing stages there. A good push from Prince Alfred College, who are over in second place. Hunter Valley Grammar in third. The two Scotch crews continue with their own race down the course as they've been doing for a while, and it will be lane 7 in the end, who should get home in 4th ahead of the lane 3 combination, and then Caulfield Grammar in the centre of the field. It will be the last crew home, and they'll all go to the repechage, with the exception of the Newcastle Grammar composite crew. The race winners there by just under a length, 2.767 the unofficial margin at this point in proceedings. Also about 9 seconds faster than the previous heat, it looks like. Comes Caulfield Grammar 2 to complete the second heat there down at 17 men's coxed quad scull, and it was a comfortable win there, as we said. Well, a close-ish win, but a win nonetheless. The Newcastle Grammar composite crew who'll go through to the semis, along with Kinross Walleroy, who won the previous heat, but he's about 9 seconds faster. Newcastle Grammar, who had to certainly race in the closing stages. The third heat is on the course here.
Yeah, third heat of the under-17 men's coxed quadruple scull. In lane number 2 is the Sydney Rowing Club composite crew with Northern Beaches Secondary College and St Peter's College of Adelaide. In lane number 3, St Patrick's College in Victoria. In lane number 4, the first crew from Northern Beaches Secondary. In lane 5, Radford College. In lane 6, the second crew from Northern Beaches Secondary. And in lane 7, the second crew from Radford College. Does look like that composite crew over in lane number 2, enjoying the easier conditions and our early race leaders at this stage.
So 2 crews, yes, from Radford College, 2 crews from Northern Beaches Secondary, and
2.5 crews from Northern Beaches Secondary, composite crews.
And yes, exactly right. And we have been notified too, the Northern Beaches Secondary crew in lane 6, which is well back in the field. We understand rowing with just 3 rowers as well, so they have had, well, have attempted to make an injury substitution, but had no available substitutes to go into the boats. They have been given permission from the regatta referee to race with 3 rowers in this race, and by completing the 2,000 metres, they will still qualify for the repechage, and if the injured rower is able to resume his spot in the crew for the repechage, he will be allowed to do so. So there will be a 3-man crew coming down the course, and that is, we think, the lane 6 combination from Northern Beaches Secondary, well back in the field. But on the other side of the course, it's better news for Northern Beaches Secondary in lane 4. They are our race leaders. We've got probably, well, pretty much a neat length now on St Patrick's of Ballarat in second place. So lanes 2 and 3, the top two.
A little bit of fact, the boat there that the winning crew racing in is an Empacher Cox Quad Scull, only one in the Southern Hemisphere. I've been reliably informed. Only Empacher Cox Quad Scull with the as a bow loader in a lightweight mould.
And this is the boat that's very difficult to transport because it's just
Yes,
too long for a
just too
shipping
long.
container, I understand, because of the Cox's seat required as well.
Yep, actually longer than the bow section of an 8.
Wow. And it's working for this. So that's the composite crew, in fact, in lane 2. So Sydney, Northern Beaches Secondary and St Peter's College. Albert Howard of St Peter's, Dion Hansen of Northern Beaches, Oscar Steele-Gamburg from Northern Beaches and Thomas Maloney from the Sydney Rowing Club. No wonder Northern Beaches had no spare rowers available. They're in 3 crews across the course in this race, and possibly that crew on the far side continues to lead St Patrick's of Ballarat. Ned Bennett, William Charles, Paddy O'Brien, Angus Murfett and Noah Cargaran. The Cox coached by David O'Doherty, the St Patrick's crew. But again, more familiar seeing St Patrick's in the Cox 4s, but having a good race here in the Cox Quad Scull. But they trail by a length and a good margin then back to the rest of the field with the 2 crews from Radford College there contending for 3rd place. But the win will go to the lane 2 composite crew, Sydney, Northern Beaches Secondary College and St Peter's College of Adelaide there. They are the next crew through straight to the semi-finals of the under-17 men's Cox Quad Scull. St Patrick's of Ballarat will finish in 2nd place. And 3rd, it is the battle of the 2 crews from Radford College. With lane 5 leading lane 7. These 2 crews will race again in the repechage. And then the 2 crews still from Northern Beaches Secondary. It appears we've been possibly misinformed on the number of rowers in this boat from Northern Beaches Secondary, but in any case, there was definitely some issues with some medical issues in that crew, which at least have been dealt with, and they've been able to complete the course. The lane 4 crew over in 5th place, and the lane 6 crew will finish 6th again. They will get a second chance in the repechage of the under-17 men's Cox Quad Scull in tomorrow afternoon's program.
Plenty of different names, but our fastest qualifier there through so far in the under-17 men's Quad Scull was the Sydney Composite crew, and it was a Sydney Composite crew that won this event at the National Championships last year under the guidance and organisation of Charlie Patterson. And the Sydney crew looking fairly well placed to try and repeat that come Saturday morning.
Yeah, definitely. 7:33.59. So the times continue to get faster as these heats progress, and there was no really serious finish there from that leading crew. So you'd think they can go a bit faster once the finals come around.
Absolutely, and we'll see if that time's challenged by the 4th and final heat of the under-17 men's Cox Quadruple Scull. Race number 281 in your programs, that is just approaching the 750 metre mark now. In lane number 2, Ballarat Clarendon. In lane 4, Cathedral from Townsville. In lane 4, a composite crew of Centenary and Hunter Valley Grammar School. In lane number 5, Corowa. And in lane number 6, Newington. First showing for Newington College at the regatta. I was actually wondering if they were coming down the other day, but good to see them here.
Yep, they are here, and yes, the school regatta starts in earnest with tomorrow afternoon's racing. These are still, of course, the club events, but the under-17 Quad Sculls generally dominated by school crews in most cases anyway, and a lot of these crews will double up and race in the school events as well. So it is a couple of the schools who lead this race, the top 3 spots in fact. Ballarat Clarendon in lane 2, our pretty comfortable race leaders by 8.5 seconds ahead of Cathedral Townsville beside them in lane 3. And then, yes, Newington appearing for the first time at the regatta over in lane 6, so on the northern side of the course, but up there in 3rd spot, still ahead of Corowa in lane 5, and another 2-state composite crew from the Centenary Rowing Club of Brisbane, and also one rower there from the Hunter Valley Grammar School in that lane 4 combination. Vaughan Henderson from Hunter Valley Grammar, along with Lachlan West, Liam Robertson and Lachlan Brooks of Centenary, coxed by Caitlin Burgess, coached by Michael Swainson and Peter Hayes. But that's the crew in the centre lane of the course. Back in, probably still in 5th place at this point. Certainly it's the 2 crews on the southern side and the 1 crew on the northern bank from Newington who look to fight out the qualifying spot here. But Ballarat Clarendon certainly well placed there. James Forsyth, Micah Hickenbotham, Tristan Niehoff, Charlie McClure and James Tippett the Cox, coached by Mackenzie Spark and Tom Nash, that leading crew from Ballarat Clarendon. It was 8.5 seconds at the 1,000 metre mark. We'll see if that's increased over the third 500 metres of the race from Cathedral and Newington, the chasing schools here, as Ballarat Clarendon are about to go through the 1,500 metre timing point, and certainly their lead remains substantial, around about 3 or so boat lengths. It looks like to the eye as they go through 1,500 metres. 5:42.63 the time there for Ballarat Clarendon, and it is now, yes, 11.33 seconds over Cathedral, Townsville and Newington in third. So little change in the order, but an extension of the lead to this pretty powerful crew from the Ballarat Clarendon College. Ballarat Clarendon continuing in front here. The interesting, probably mainly to get a look at their time as they come across the finish line. You would think the race very much in the bag here for Ballarat Clarendon College. Second place, Cathedral Townsville, Charlie Patrick, Henry Chin, Darcy Hock, Nathan Whitehead and Genevieve Bolster. The Cox, Kimberly Brown, the coach of that Cathedral crew. And Newington Lane 6 is William Fuller, Mark Gralakis, Angus Mitchell, Morgan Jones and Elvis Johnson, coached by Marty Nicholas and Carl Schmidt. They will battle out second and third. Corowa still there in 4th place. So a crew of 4 from the Corowa Club. Eric Hogan, Spencer Holland, Brodie Julian, Lockie Hogan and Harvey McFarlane, coached as is the entire Corowa squad by the hardworking Wes Canny and Matthew Bell, just ahead of Centenary Hunter Valley Grammar. But here comes Ballarat Clarendon. They're not holding back here in the closing strokes either, racing towards the line, and they will go across for a comfortable win in the 4th and final heat of the under-17 men's Coxed Quad Scull. So Ballarat Clarendon, James Forsyth, Micah Hickenbotham, Tristan Niehoff, Charlie McClure and James Tippett, a comfortable win there and a substantial margin too over Cathedral Townsville, who will go through to the Rapid Charge in 2nd place. 3rd will be Newington, 4th Corowa and 5th the Centenary Composite combination. It's like about 7:36 the time, so not quite as quick as the Sydney Composite crew in the previous race, but with a 16-second winning margin, the biggest of all 4 heats. They will
Wouldn't
be
say
a
they were
force
pushed.
to be reckoned with. No, they put on a bit of a show of the final 100 metres there, but yes, they can certainly do some more, that crew from Ballarat Clarendon College in the under-17 men's Coxed Quad Scull.
Yeah, now back down the course, up an age group and ditching the coxswain, we have race number 282 in your program, the first heat of the under-19 women's quadruple scull, so coxless this time. And it's been a much anticipated race here in the commentary box, especially from Ray Everett, as our race leaders at this point, predictably, come down the course. So in lane number 2, we have a composite with North Esk and Kentish. In lane number 3, we have the Sydney Rowing Club and Pine Rivers Rowing Club composite combination, who are our significant race leaders at this stage. In lane number 4, we have a composite of Penrith, Mossman and Newcastle Grammar. In lane 5, a composite of Mersey and ANU. In lane 6, a composite of Wendouree, Ballarat, Bundaberg and Torrens. And in lane number 7, a composite of Commercial and Centenary. So a full field of 6 composite crews, and it is the Sydney Rowing Club and Pine Rivers Rowing Club combination at the head of the field at the 1500 metre mark. The margin there at the 1,000 metre mark was upwards of 15 seconds, I believe, and we're just waiting for the other crews to appear on screen. That crew coached by Brendan Longman, Kendall Brody and Ray Smith. Obviously the 1 and 2 women's under-19 double sculls from yesterday's semi-finals.
Yep.
Yesterday's heats, rather.
Yeah, well, they, and in fact, racing together in the semis of the double scull earlier today too. It was a substantial win to the Pine Rivers combination there, but combining into the quad scull. And this is very impressive performance from a very, very good crew. Ella Smith and Jade Proberts of Pine Rivers, Zoe Bond and Talitha Knock, driver of the Sydney Rowing Club, combining here to record. It's still about 300 metres away, but I think in Henley terms, as Lizzie Chapman would tell us, this would be recorded the verdict easily. And it is a very good performance here from that crew. Behind them in second place, it would be the Tasmanian combination, North Esk and Kentish over in lane 2. Jessica Welsh of Kentish, Emily Hepburn of North Esk, Layla Hucker of North Esk, and Morgan Brown also of North Esk, coached by Trevor Barrett and Graham Scattergood. And also then over towards lane 5, it would be another Tasmanian crew, or predominantly Tasmanian. Oliver Yates of Mersey, Philippa Gray of ANU, Meg Castles of Mersey, and Sophie Graves of Mersey, coached by David Tippett and Edward Behan. But this crew out in front, Pine Rivers and Sydney Rowing Club, the 2 Pine Rivers girls there in the centre of the boat, and Sydney in the bow on the stroke seat, and they are going to record a commanding win. It was 22 seconds after 1,500 metres, and they are pulling away from the field here with every stroke. So a big win to the Sydney and Pine Rivers composite combination crew on lane 3 in the first heat of the under-19 women's quad scull, with just 2 heats in this event. So it is straight through to the final for Sydney and Pine Rivers. The remainder of the field will go into the repechage led by the all-Tasmanian combination over in lane 2 from the North Esk and Kentish Rowing Clubs. Third place then will be Mersey and the rower there from the Australian National University in the bow seat of that crew. Fourth looks like it'll be Penrith, Mossman and Newcastle Grammar, a 3-club all New South Wales combination there. Fourth will be Wendouree, Ballarat, Bundaberg and Torrens. That was 3-state composite crew there on lane 6. They'll finish 5th, and 6th place will be the Commercial and Centenary. So an all Brisbane composite crew on lane 7 to complete the first heat of the under-19 women's quad scull.
Some great racing there, and definitely one to watch out for as we progress to the finals of this event on Saturday morning. That Sydney composite crew, I know, aiming themselves towards national junior selection in a couple of weeks' time. So it'd be good to. They'll definitely be looking to. Hopefully, if the conditions tidy up a little bit, they'll be looking to put on a pretty good time and good performance for the coming forward.
Yeah, but it finished up at 23.99 seconds, the unofficial margin there. So a very substantial win to Sydney Pine Rivers over North East and Kentish, 7:58.05 the time at this stage, subject to revision ever so slightly once the race is concluded. And here comes the Commercial Centenary composite crew, who will be the 6th crew across the line and conclude race 282, the first heat of the under-19 women's quad scull, with heat 2 already well underway, and in fact through the 1,500 metre mark.
Coming at us thick and fast, we've got the second heat, which is comprised 6-boat heat in lane 2, Ballarat City; in lane 3, Radford College; in lane 4, a composite of Canberra, ANU, Mossman and Redlands; in lane number 5, we've got the University of Queensland; in lane number 6, we've got Mersey; and in lane number 7, a composite of Yarra Yarra, Sydney Rowing Club and UTS Haberfield. And at the 1,500 metre mark, because this race is almost at its conclusion, it was the Canberra composite crew in the centre of the course between Canberra, ANU, Mossman and Redlands that was leading the field quite convincingly by about 14 seconds.
Yeah, we talked up the Pine Rivers margin in the previous race, but Canberra Composite doing a pretty similar thing here. 14.23 seconds they had at 1,500 metres over Mersey and Cathedral Townsville. So it was the Canberra, ANU, Mossman, Redlands. So 4-club composite there. Elizabeth Holtoyer, Lillian Hyde, Elena Moran, Imogen Lang, coached by David Fermano, Katie Healy and Lucy Mason, who lead this race. A great battle behind them. The other 5 crews only separated by a couple of lengths, but this is again a very substantial win coming up to a very good composite crew in the second heat of the under-19 women's quad scull. Second is tight with the Yarra Yarra Sydney UTS composite lane 7, probably just from Mersey, and then the University of Queensland. But it'll be interesting to compare margins across these 2 heats. It may not quite be 24 seconds, but a big win nonetheless to the composite crew there on lane 4 from the Canberra, ANU, Mossman and Redlands club. So half ACT, half New South Wales there, that combination across very comfortably in front. Racing now for second place. It looks like the Yarra Yarra, Sydney and UTS crew, with UTS there in the stroke and bow seat of that crew. Paige Critchlow, Amelia Cooper, Ella Huber, Zara Kafuri, the rowers there in that boat. Ahead of Mersey, Sarah Ellis, Lucy Doonan, Ella Spalding, Catherine Greenhill, 4 in that boat to finish in third place. 4th, University of Queensland. 5th place is very tight, Radford or Ballarat City. And Radford, we think, in 5th place. Ballarat City narrowly in 6th, but Canberra Composite will go through to the final, where they will line up alongside Pine Rivers and Sydney Rowing Club from the previous heats, and the remaining 5 crews to the repechage of the under-19 women's quad scull.
Richard, and back down on the course now from the men's to the women's. We've got the first heat of just 2 heats again of the under-19 men's quadruple scull, and that race is through the 1,000-metre mark and approaching the 1,500-metre mark at a rapid pace. In lane number 1, Radford College. In lane 2, Sydney Rowing Club. In lane 3, Trinity Grammar from Victoria. In lane 4, a composite crew of Rockhampton Grammar and St Joseph's Nudgee College. In lane number 5, St Augustine's from New South Wales. In lane 6, Gippsland Grammar. And in lane 7, a composite crew between Trinity Lutheran College, Griffith Uni Surfers Paradise and the commercial rowing clubs. And at that 1,500-metre timing point, it was Radford College and the ACT who were out in front of the field, just 3 seconds ahead of the Sydney Rowing Club combination.
Yeah, we're back to heats, of course, now this afternoon, so there are no seedings applied, so the leading crews can come from all over the field, and that's exactly what's happening in this race. But it is the far side where the top 2 likely reside, Radford College and Sydney, and then look to be Gippsland Grammar, lane 6. We narrowly from St Augustine's of Sydney in lane 5. Those 4 clearly with a gap back to the rest of the field. But again, in these heats, with just the 2 heats, it is first only straight through to the A final, and the remainder of the field to the repechage of the under-19 men's quad scull. So the repechage is to be raced tomorrow. The final will be on Saturday in the under-19 men's quad scull. So an extra day off the prize here for the leading crew. Radford College on the far side. Connor Jacopino, Campbell Kruger, Hunter Jolly, Oliver Fox, coached by Craig Muller and Michael McCormack there. Good finish coming from Gippsland Grammar 2 in lane 6. Cameron Rule, Lindsay Hamilton, Anthony Smith, Billy Osborne, the crew there, and also Sydney, Oliver Maroulis, I should say, James Fredrickson, Jackson Gursoy, and Maxim Maloney there, the Sydney combination, who were chasing hard after our race leaders from Radford College. Gippsland Grammar still also trying to move up into the top spot, but Radford College from the ACT over on the far side of the course are finishing quickly and holding on by just over a length. It'll be very tight for second place, but Radford College will take the win ahead of Sydney just then. Gippsland Grammar, it looked to be as they crossed the line, both those 2 to go to the repechage in any case. Then 4th will be St Augustine's of Sydney. 5th place, the Rockhampton Grammar and St Joseph's Nudgee College composite crew. 6th will be Trinity Lutheran, Griffith University and commercial rowing clubs there on lane 7, and they're followed home by the crew from Trinity Grammar of Melbourne, who will finish in 7th place in race 284.
Some great racing there in the quad sculls. Just despite the headwind. Racing still staying relatively tight. But, Sydney Rowing Club crew, all St Joseph's College athletes from New South Wales, combining together in the quad. So a little bit of learning for them, I would suppose. The Coxless quad is definitely a very different boat to race to the Coxed 8 that they'll be traditionally used to. Back down on the course now, just motoring through or approaching the 1,000 metre mark is the second heat of the under-19 men's quadruple scull. In lane 2, Melbourne High. In lane 3, Radford College. In lane 4, a composite crew of St Augustine's College, Newcastle Grammar and Sydney Rowing Club. In lane 4, a composite crew of Bundaberg, Ignatius Park College and Northern Beaches Secondary College. In lane number 6, we have Nudgee College, and in lane number 7, a scratching from the Sydney Composite. Through that 1,000 metre mark, it was Radford College again, aiming to make it a 1-2 in the 2 heats, leading out the field by quite a significant margin at that halfway point.
Yeah, it was a good lead. So Radford College looking to do what Geelong Grammar did yesterday in the 2 heats, the under-19 women's at Cox State, winning both of the heats to reserve the middle lanes, or at least the preferred lanes, as they may turn out to be in the final to come. So Radford College a comfortable lead here on lane 3. Over 7 seconds it was after the first 1,000 metres. A crew of Christopher Bush, Jake Sheeman-Rogers, Hamish Roberts, William Gregory, coached by Craig Muller, and Michael McCormack. The combination there for Radford College, who certainly have a margin on St Augustine's, or that's a composite crew in fact. Finn Woodward of Sydney Rowing Club, Alexander McDougall of Newcastle Grammar, Patrick Stanley of Newcastle Grammar, and Tane Potts from St Augustine's. That crew coached by Amos Noon, Charlie Patterson and Judith Ungamuck, and Nudgee College thereabouts as well in certainly the race, at least for second place. Harry Dixon, Chad Willett, Griffin Shostakovsky and Jonah Nelson there, the Nudgee combination on lane 6. Between those two crews, a bit of acceleration coming from that 3 club composite crew on lane 5. The Bundaberg composite crew, as they're listed on the program. Sam Merry of Northern Beaches Secondary College, Zane McGregor from Northern Beaches, Noah Lau from Ignatius Park in Townsville, and Samuel Klotz of Bundaberg. And they are moving up right alongside Nudgee College there, maybe past Nudgee College, possibly in fact, as they've come through 1,500 metres now. So not much has changed at the top of the field. It's Radford College who still lead by over 7 seconds, almost 8 seconds in fact. So they've extended slightly in the third 500 metres. St Augustine still second, and now it is indeed the Ignatius Park composite crew up into third place.
Of course, not much sweepboard rowing happening in the schools competition in Canberra. It is a lot of sculling, and Radford College having quite a storied history in the quad scull, both coxed and coxless. I know their women's quad scull went through quite a period of winning a lot of schoolgirl Head of the Rivers a couple of years ago. And their men's quad sculls doing very similar things in recent years, and putting that on display by attempting and looking very close to winning both heats of the under-19 men's quadruple scull today.
The school races will be coxed quad sculls?
For the most part, yeah. Yep.
So an extra degree of difficulty here in the coxless boat in the under-19 event. But yes, Radford College doing a very good job, looking almost certain to take out here the race-to-race double in the 2 heats of the under-19 men's quad scull. That Bundaberg composite crew looking to sneak up, possibly now into second place as well, with the St Augustine's composite alongside them. That's the race probably of interest here in the closing strokes. Nudgee College back in 4th, and Radford College will take the win. So for the second race in a row, they win both heats of the under-19 men's quad scull. Radford College in first place, and the lane 4 crew will hold on by about 2/3 of a length. So St Augustine's, Newcastle Grammar and Sydney in second place. Third goes to Bundaberg, Ignatius Park and Northern Beaches Secondary College. But it is to the repechage for those 2 crews, along with Nudgee College. Lane 6 will finish in 4th place. Melbourne High, over on the far side of the course, will finish in 5th place. And does appear We only had the 5 crews, I think, in that race. Chris, no appearance from the crew listed for lane 7, which was a Sydney Scotch Adelaide composite crew.
So now back down onto the field and sticking with 8 oars, but only 1 each, and time for the only one repechage rather, consolidated repechage of the under-19 women's Coxed 8. This was the event yesterday where Geelong Grammar progressed from both of the heats. So these crews looking to join Geelong Grammar in the finals on Saturday morning. In lane number 1, we had the composite crew of Loreto Kirribilli and Loreto Marryatville, the two Loretos combining for a race here today. In lane number 2, we have the crew from Queenwood in New South Wales. In lane 3, Caulfield Grammar. In lane 4, a composite crew of Wilderness School and Commercial. In lane 5, we have Seymour College. In lane 6, MLCQ. And in lane 7, Caulfield Grammar. It does look like at the 500-metre mark, it was that all-Loreto combination, Kirribilli from New South Wales and Marryatville from South Australia, who were at the head of the field by just 1.27 seconds. So that's about a third of a boat length in the Coxed 8. And Wilderness School in second place there, just leading Queenwood by half a second. So anyone's race at the moment, given top 2 through to the final, the rest of the crews will be eliminated from the event.
I actually think, Chris, there were 2 repechages listed here, and the second has been removed, so I think consolidated to 1, so it should be top 4. Despite what the paperwork says, I'd imagine here it's top 4 to go through to the final. We have the 2 Geelong Grammar crews from yesterday's 2 heats, and then 4 to join them here from a field of 7. That's how we would see it anyway, but as always, the official draws will be found on the website after this race is run. So you'd like to be in the top 2 just to be sure, but we think
Absolutely.
the top 4 should go through.
And we've said it a million times, but we'll keep on saying it. You'd like to be in the top 2 to be securing those preferable lanes should a crosswind continue to be the case, as is forecasted. So at the moment, that is looking like the Loreto composite on the far side of the course. Wilderness School, Queenwood and Seymour College as our qualifiers. Bit of a gap then back to our trailing 3 crews, Wilderness School combination, MLCQ and Caulfield Grammar on the nearest side of the course. Bit of a margin there back from 4th to 5th.
Yeah, so that's the all Loreto composite crews. It's an even combination between Loreto Marryatville of Adelaide, Loreto Kirribilli of Sydney. So 4 girls from Loreto Marryatville, Charlotte Illman, Mariah Murray, Deanna Macalino and Victoria Binns. And 4 from Loreto Kirribilli in Sydney, Lucy Howard, Matilda Damien, Lauren Moran and Alyssa Flickers. They are coxed by Caitlin Gately. The coaches Lachlan Allen, Tom Dornbos and Charlie Rose Iron there of the all Loreto composite crew over there on the far side of the course. They continue to lead, but only narrowly from Queenwood there in lane 2, who might have snuck into second for now at least, ahead of the Wilderness School of Adelaide. And then their rivals also from South Australia, Seymour College there in 4th place. And then it looks like, sure that it is Caulfield Grammar. Well, there's 2 crews here from Caulfield Grammar, so yes, one of them there in lane 3 is up in about 5th spot, but a bit of work to do for them. I understand Caulfield Grammar last made an A final at Nationals in 2013 in the schoolgirls Coxed 8. They're looking to break that drought here today, but some work to do for them with their 2 crews in the race currently sitting in 5th and 7th place. And yes, the best of our knowledge, 4 crews only will go through from this race. So from the far side, Loreto Kirribilli and Loreto Marryatville. Queenwood from Sydney there, narrowly in 2nd place. Phoebe Campbell, Brooke Lancaster, Charlotte Botha, Eliza Cook, Madeline Nicol, Emerson Stock, Olivia Don't, Chloe Driver and Lucy Anderson, coached by Kieran Glynn, Ray Boyle and Gemma Campbell. And then still the Wilderness School, well, it's the Wilderness School composite crew. There is 1 rower from the Commercial Rowing Club of Brisbane there. That's Eva Formosa Kerr, in an otherwise all Wilderness School combination. So possibly, in fact, definitely a late substitution there. The asterisk beside the commercial rower tells us that. So the rest of the crew from the Wilderness School is Isabel Jackson, Aisha Alcazay, Lily Marshall, Annalise Roos, Millie Jackson, Zara Hoadley, and Georgina Birchall, coxed by Olympia Andre, coached by Amy Mailing and Eleanor Trobus, the Wilderness School combination, who does lead from Seymour College of South Australia as well. Queenwood making a move here on the Loretto composite crew. I think they may have snuck their boat in front with about 300 metres to race, and they did indeed lead it by just 0.19 of a second after 1,500 metres, and it probably extend that a little bit more now, the Queenwood combination. So Queenwood lane 2, and also there the Wilderness School still over in lane 4. A clear top 3. And then Seymour College would be fourth, well back then to the 2 crews from Caulfield Grammar, and also MLC from Kew in lane 6. And even these 8s, Chris, being affected a little bit by the wind in the steering in some of the boats. So it clearly is challenging conditions out there for some of these 8s. But Queenwood took the lead just before the 1,500 metre mark, and they have pulled out to probably half a length or so now over the Loretto composite crew and also the Wilderness School from Adelaide. All crews will go through, or at least all of these 3 crews will go through to the final of the Under-19 Women's Cox 8, with a come against 2 very good crews from Geelong Grammar waiting with the extra day's rest when that final comes around on Saturday afternoon. So it is Queenwood lane 2 who'll take the win from by about 2/3 of a length from Loretto Kirribilli, Loretto Marriotteville composite crew. A neat link then back to the Wilderness School. It will be the Wilderness School plus Commercial in 3rd place. They are also through, we suspect, to the final, along also with Seymour College from South Australia in 3rd and 4th place, those 2 Adelaide-based crews. And then it will be Caulfield Grammar lane 3, who will finish in 5th place, ahead of MLCQ and the 2nd crew also from Caulfield Grammar.
So again, with the consolidation of those 2 Under-19 Women's Cox 8 repêchages, we are moving straight on to the 2 heats of the Under-19 Men's Cox 8 on the course now. In lane number 2, a composite crew of St Peter's College and Scotch College in Adelaide. In lane number 3, Scotch College from Victoria. In lane 4, Geelong Grammar. In lane 5, Caulfield Grammar. And in lane 6, St Peter's College once again. That would be, I believe, their second 8 in that on the near side of the course. At the halfway, or rather the 1,500 metre mark of this race, was the St Peter's College and Scotch College Adelaide composite crew out in the lead, quite convincingly over Scotch College from Victoria, who I do believe might be their second 8. They do normally enter their second 8 in the Under-19 8s events. Those 2, at this stage, are looking like our qualifiers straight through to the final. The rest of the crews will have to contest a repêchage to make that final on the weekend.
Yeah, so just the 2 heats here of the Under-19 Men's Cox 8. And it will be the top 2 from each going through. So, yes, a field of 10 to be narrowed down eventually to just 6 finalists, I would assume. It will be, but the top 2 will go straight through here, and certainly the South Australian composite crew over on the far side is looking comfortably clear. Kyle Miller, William Howard, Adam Holland, Edward Chipperfield, Max Henry, Fraser Belnays, Faris Harp, Jake Nesbitt and Philippe Scalzi, coached by James McRae, Tom Beresford and James Seppelt, and they are pulling away certainly here late in this race. Scotch College looks comfortable there ahead of Geelong Grammar.
Not repeating the efforts of their schoolmates in the girls' events yesterday. They'll have to contest the repechage tomorrow in order to secure their place in the final. It is the Adelaide Composite, the St Peter's College and Scotch College Adelaide Composite crew on the far side of the course will come across the line in first place to secure their spot straight through to the final. They'll be joined by Scotch College from Victoria as they cross the line now for their spot in the A final. Through to the repechage will be Geelong Grammar in lane number 4. And I believe no start from the Caulfield Grammar's crew had scratched, so it will be St Peter's College in lane number 6 who will join them in the repechage.
So we are racing in race 289, the second heat of the under-19 men's Cox State with a very interesting composite crew here over in lane 5. But the full field is Launceston Grammar in lane 2, Brisbane Boys College, who are the Brisbane Head of the River champions a couple of weeks ago, racing in lane 3. Prince Alfred College from Adelaide in lane 4. A mouthful of a composite crew in lane 5, Melbourne Uni Ballarat Grammar, Wesley College, St Patrick's College and Swan River. It's run off the page on my printout, so a lot of different clubs there in the Matt Ryan coach handpicked crew. And the West Australian Rowing Club composite crew also in lane 6, West Australian Rowing Club, Christchurch Grammar, Fremantle, University of Queensland and Ballarat Grammar. So some interesting combinations in this race, Chris.
Just about got every club in the country participating in the second heat of the under-19 men's 8 at this point. So a couple of crews possibly hand-picked to get together and have the best chance at maybe qualifying a crew for the Australian junior team. It's been a little while since we've had a junior men's Cox 8 go to the Junior World Championships. I'm actually not sure when the last time that would have been. Maybe you might know.
No, we need Owen.
We need Owen. This would be Owen.
Owen can hopefully send us the answer in if he knows it, if he's listening.
Shortly. Yeah, so at the where are we up to? At the 1,000 metre mark, it was the Brisbane Boys College crew who were leading, quite comfortably leading the field from the Melbourne University Composite in second place, and the Western Australian Rowing Club Composite just about a boat length behind in third. Launceston Grammar in fourth, and Prince Alfred College from South Australia in fifth place at that halfway timing point. It does look like BBC have extended that lead as we march towards the 1,500 metre mark. That's the crew, Brisbane Boys College crew of Finlay Harris, Daniel Cashman, Matthew Cashman, Robert Atkinson, Robbo Robertson, Toby McPherson, Lex Tucker, Monty Martin, their Cox, Lachlan McLean, their coaches, Randall Martin and Scott Laidler, who lead the field by upwards of 5.5 seconds from the Melbourne University Composite crew. Western Australian Rowing Club Composite in third, Launceston Grammar in fourth, Prince Alfred College in fifth, and Brisbane Boys. We had a little bit of a timing discrepancy there. Only 5 crews in the race, just catching me off guard, keeping me on my toes this afternoon in the timing huts.
And the BBC crew, so the winners, yes, of the Brisbane Head of the River this year and last year. They broke a long drought, a close to 30-year drought. It was last year. The crew this year, yes, stroked by Monty Martin, the son of Randall Martin, the co-coach of the crew, along with Scott Laidler. And they had great success on Lake Warralong a couple of weeks ago, beating home the Southport School and also Nudgee College into third place. So a very strong crew here from Brisbane Boys College, who look set to move straight through to the final of the under-19 men's Cox State ahead of that composite combination on lane 5.
And looking very strong indeed, the crew from Brisbane Boys College, as they make their way into the Red Boys to signify the last 100 metres of the course. They'll be joining those Red Boys by the Melbourne University Composite crew on their left-hand side, but not a threat at this stage. Both crews comfortably qualifying directly through to the final. It'll be Brisbane Boys College, crossing the line in first place. The Melbourne University Composite, the Matt Ryan coached crew in lane 5, crossing the line in second place. And then followed by the Western Australian Rowing Club Composite, nearest to the grandstand side of the course, who will have to contest the repechage tomorrow in order to gain their spot in the A final. Launceston Grammar on the far side of the course in 4th place, followed across the line by Prince Alfred College to round out this second heat, the under-19 men's Cox 8.
It was a 5-club composite crew, I think I worked out there, and then the Melbourne Uni combination, lane 5, and also lane 6, again a 5-club composite crew spanning 3 different states as well. So some interesting combinations there, but no match for Brisbane Boys College in the second heat of the under-19 men's Cox 8. The BBC winning time as well, 22:38, is over 10 seconds faster than the previous heat. And they won it by 7.43 seconds, whereas a rather more leisurely 15-second win to the St Peters Composite crew in the previous heat of the under-19 men's Cox 8. Just a couple of races to go here, Chris, before a bit of a break in racing, and then we resume with those semi-finals that we had from the quarterfinals earlier today. But 2 heats now of the under-23 women's Cox 8.
Yeah, so on the course now, approaching the 1,000 metre marks, our first heat in the under-23 women's Cox 8. It's great to see so many 8s out racing. Normally our 8s events are either a straight final or a race for lanes, so great to see this, and plenty of mouthful composites as well coming forward. A few substitutions in a few of them, so we do apologise if we do get a couple of names wrong. Our draw may be slightly out of date, but in lane number 2, we have a Canned, Pine Rivers and Toowong composite crew. In lane number 3, we have a Griffith Uni Surfers Paradise, UTS Haberfield, Brisbane and GPS and Toowong composite crew. In lane number 4, the only single club, or rather, not the only single club, one of our single club crews in the centre of the course from Mercantile Rowing Club in Victoria, supported by the Victorian Institute of Sport. In lane number 5, a composite crew of Melbourne University, Swan River Rowing Club and Sydney Rowing Club, followed by, in lane number 6, another single club crew of just Sydney University Boat Club, supported by the New South Wales Institute of Sport, as well as the ACT High Performance Program. It is that Mercantile Rowing Club crew representing their club colours out the head of the field by about almost 4 seconds over the first Queensland crew, the Canned composite on the far side of the course. Progression for this one, first and second through to the final. So those are our 2 provisional progressors to the A final.
So with 9 entrants in total here in this race, it will be a 6-boat final in the end for this race. So 2 will go through from these next 2 heats, and then 2 from what I imagine will be the sole repechage of this event. There'll be 5 boats in the repechage, and the top 2 from that will go through to the A final, and the remaining 3 crews will be eliminated. So 9 crews down to 6 eventually in the under-23 women's Cox 8 under the 7-lane progression system in use for this regatta. And in the centre of the course, the Mercantile combination, it certainly is who lead this race. They had 3.7 seconds over the Canned composite combination at halfway. Canned had moved up past the Melbourne University composite crew in the second 500 metres. So it's Mercantile who continue to lead this race here with Louisa Bongrain, Henrietta Patterson, Bethany's Mack, Emma Haberfield, Hannah Magasanik, Olivia Sargent, Remy Mackay, Paige Barr, and Miller Hoffman, coached by Mike Mackay, and Sam Fennessy, who go through 1,500, still in front, but only 2.6 seconds, so no clear water between the top 2 crews. Canned composite there in second, and Griffith University Surfers Paradise look to have come from the rear of the field up into 3rd spot now at 1,500, but still very close really between 3, 4 and 5, although it's the top 2 that's important here as far as qualification is concerned for the final of the under-23 women's Cox 8. So over in lane 2, it's a composite crew from the various Brisbane clubs. Giselle Graham of Toowong, Molly Salisbury of Canned, Georgia Stoddart from Pine Rivers, Rosie Turnbull and Jess Scott from Canned. Jave Proberts and Ella Smith of Pine Rivers have got off the water in the 4 very quickly to row in this combined 8, along also with Lukey Smith of Cairn. Jono Cook, the Cox there of that composite crew on the far side of the course, and they're chasing well into second place, holding off. Yeah, it's still a good race for 3rd, 4th and 5th. Sydney Uni certainly ahead of the Melbourne Uni composite crew. Close also with that green boat of the Griffith University Surfers Paradise composite crew. But certainly been a busy hour for Jave Proberts and Ella Smith of Pine Rivers there, sitting in this 8, which is getting close to a race leaders from Mercantile, but not quite close enough in the end. It'll be Mercantile going through, but the Cairn, Pine Rivers, Toowong combination will finish in second and easily move through again to the final of the under-23 women's Coxed 8, about 3/4 of a length as they cross the line. Mercantile first, Pine Rivers, Cairn, Toowong in second place. Third then will be Sydney Uni on the northern side of the course. 4th, the green boat of the Griffith University composite crew. And 5th will be Melbourne Uni, Swan River and Sydney Rowing Club combined there on lane 5.
And in the second heat, in the under-23 women's Cox stage, it is our final race before a short break before we move to the semi-finals, the under-17 women's single sculls later on this afternoon. But we have a race on the course just progressing through the 1,000-metre mark now. The under-23 women's Cox 8 in lane number 3. We have a composite of Buckingham, New Norfolk, North Esk and Tasmania University. So an all-Tasmanian combination on the far side of the course. In lane number 4, we have a Melbourne University, Sydney Rowing Club and Swan River Rowing Club combination. In lane number 5, University of Queensland, and in lane number 6, a combination of Adelaide University, Western Australian Rowing Club and Adelaide Rowing Clubs to round out the field. And at the 1,000 metre mark, it was the Melbourne University composite. That's Caitlin McManus Barrett of Sydney Rowing Club, Bridget Harwood of Melbourne University, Sarah Deure of Melbourne University Boat Club, Rebecca Pretorius, Swan River Rowing Club, along with Jackie Swick of Swan River Rowing Club, Isabella Scammell and Lauren Graham of Sydney Rowing Club, and Eliza Gaffney of Melbourne University Boat Club. Coxed by Lucy Burnell, coached by Mitchell Nelson, Lachlan Carter and Mark Beer. Was that mouthful of a composite crew that is well out in front of the field at the 1,000 metre mark as they approach the 1,500.
It's lucky the headwind's blowing to give us time to get through all these names and
That takes
clubs,
about twice as long to read as it normally does.
The club events are coming up in the next couple
Nice
of days
and
where you
easy.
can have no composite crews in the club events. So we
Exactly.
look forward to the relative monotony of those events to come. But yes, that was lane 4, and I'll let you take us through lane 3 as well, Chris.
if I
to
must
fill
say.
in the next 500 metres.
That's the Tasmanian composite. So this is a Buckingham composite. Sophie Robinson of Tasmania University Boat Club, along with Kate Oliver, Amy Bain and Anna Blackwell of the same club. Jessica Stevens of Buckingham, Abby Butcher of North Esk, and Molly McCausland of New Norfolk. Isabel Higgins, their stroke seat from Buckingham, and Chloe Mead, the Cox, coached by Sean Finlayson and Abby Crow. So I've learned to read ahead a little bit more.
You've done
and I
well.
can group them all together.
Very good. And at least it's an all Tasmanian composite crew, so I can live with
what
that
to
one.
expect,
In
exactly.
in the red boats of the Tasmanian University Boat Club, but they have combined from the north and the south of Tasmania, which can be controversial at times, but they're rowing together well there in that red boat over in, it looks to be in second place still, the Buckingham Composite crew, as they shall be known for the rest of this race. But the Melbourne University Composite crew continue to lead, and then the University of Queensland will be next in lane 5. The combination of Elizabeth Newell, Carly Furman, Phoebe Robinson, Alexandra Rooney, Izzy Drew, Ellie Reedy, Lucy Hope, Nancy Duncan Banks, and Chelsea Ashby, coached by Gus Rodero.
So worth noting that this Tasmanian combination crew, as I thought, I did just double check, is actually the Tasmanian Queen's Cup to race
Makes
on
even more
Sunday.
sense then.
So that's much easier. We don't need to refer them as a combination. We can just refer them as the Tasmanian Queen's Cup. No match for the Melbourne University Sydney Rowing Club and Swan River Rowing Club combination at the head of the field, as they have been from the start of the race, just relaxing into the last 30 metres of the course now. That crew will come across the line in first place, will be our first qualifiers straight through to the A final of the under-23 women's Coxed 8. They're about 2 or 3 lengths ahead of the Tasmanian Queen's Cup crew, crossing the line in second place. The University of Queensland crew will be off to the repechage in third place. And they'll be joined by the Adelaide University composite crew in fourth place, just entering the last 100 metres of the race now.
The Adelaide University composite crew also with the Adelaide Rowing Club, and I was going to blame Jury Castlegrove for that, but there's also one rower from the West Australian Rowing Club there, so maybe some late substitutions there too, but a predominantly South Australian crew there as well on lane 4 as they come across the line now in fourth place, but it's Melbourne Uni Composite and the Tasmanian Composite crew through from the second heat of the under-23 women's Coxed 8.
And a little bit of a funny break in the program now, so we'll be back at just 4:05 in about 35 minutes for the semi-finals of the women's under-17 singles scull.
So we're heading to the start now in tricky conditions, but tomorrow's the first of the finals days, Lizzie.
How exciting. Which are you looking forward to any particular ones, Razor?
Oh, you're suggesting I'm biased. I think I've got certain races that I'm particularly interested in, but the whole day's racing tomorrow is full of promise, and we've had people like Paul Thompson and Jamie Fernandez up here. So I think the under-17s who are out there now in very tricky conditions. The couple of the sculls are at 45 degrees there, and there's a bit of a trick to pacing into the breeze and just letting them come around and be right at the square at the right time, ready to go. But the under-17s, the under-19s, I think there's a couple of pretty short price favourites in the under-19 singles from what we've seen. And I think Victoria Binns in this race and Imogen Gray are going to take some beating tomorrow as well.
Yeah.
As you know, I'm very interested in the under-19 women's double, but there's some other great crews out there as well. And it's great to see this afternoon we had under 23 eights racing as well.
That was so exciting, yeah. And all of the sweep that came through showed that there's some remarkable depth in talent here in Australia. So the underage selectors who are and coaches who are on the bank, I'm sure, are really delighted to see what's going on despite the challenging weather conditions. Everybody just getting out there and getting on with it, which is what you need to do.
The office beside us has been busy. We've had the underage selectors here interviewing coxswains. I think there's 5 or 6 coxswains. I think there may even be still one in America to be interviewed. And just this afternoon we've had boat race officials having exams in their aspirants to become national boat race officials
So
as
good.
well.
Yeah.
So the nationals, despite some challenges, the need to be agile has been proven here.
Yeah.
And these youngsters in the start installations right now are dealing with this crosswind, but dealing with it well. And the boat race officials, our most experienced boat race officials and our highly credentialed boat race officials are dealing with the conditions very well as well. So,
Yes.
yeah, a great shot coming from the start line, right across the course there. You can see the scullers, and away they go. Well done to those scullers and to the boat race officials.
So we're looking at the course now on screen, the way the umpire would be looking at, and lane 1 is over on the left-hand side of the screen. If you're watching from the boat park, it's obviously on the far side to you. The sculler in lane 2 is Victoria Binns. She rows for Loretto Marriotteville, and she's coached by Tom Dornbos. The sculler in lane 3 is Ella Duran. She represents Gippsland Grammar, and she's coached by Nick Bartlett and Harry Roach. Canberra Grammar sculler Madison Duncan is in lane 4. She is coached by Sarah Peterswold. Lily Bragg is in lane 5. She represents St Patrick's Townsville, and she's coached by Harrison Parks and Hayley Nielsen-Burke. Sophia Miller from Glebe Rowing Club is in lane 6, coached by Milan Parker and his son Thomas Parker. And Alicia Walker from Ballarat Grammar is in lane 7.
And unfortunately no coach listed there. If anybody can send that information through, we do like to acknowledge the coaches because these athletes, the athletes can be as well prepared as they possibly can by themselves, but it's the coaches who put the polish on them and keep them calm. Sometimes the athletes have to keep the coaches calm.
Yes, I've definitely seen.
There's
definitely been a coach that's.
There's a lot of boat polishing goes on the day of a final, isn't there?
There certainly is. Now, and all of these girls will get to race again tomorrow, won't they?
In the under-17, certainly, yeah. First, second, and third to the A final, 4th, 5th, and 6th to the B final. Yes.
Yeah. And whilst we're expecting that wind to drop, we know it's the prevailing wind conditions, so this is good experience for them now. And they've had, goodness me, they've had enough rounds to get to this semi-final.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. The biggest entry for the regatta, hence the need for heats, repecharges, and quarterfinals, and then semi-finals. And except for Victoria Binns, it's a pretty close contest. Victoria Binns has got a length and a half or so lead in the early stages. I'm just waiting to get 90 degrees to the buoy line, but to me it looks like the other 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the picture. There's only about a half a length between them, whereas Victoria Binns is probably 3/4 of maybe a length in front.
I was just going to say, Alicia Walker looked to me as though she's just snuck her nose in front. She's less than a second behind Victoria Binns at the first 500 and ahead of Sophia Miller from Glebe Rowing Club.
And then 0.4, 0.2 and 0.5 to the next 3.
So close.
So the classic, you can throw a blanket over them. but just 1.18 from Sophia Miller back to behind Alicia Walker. Off the blocks really well, Victoria Binns, who raced well in this category last year. Tom Dornbos, who runs the program at Loretto Marriotteville, is coaching her, and she's holding the early lead and looking to book one of the best lanes for the final in the under-17 women's single scull.
Alicia Walker has been pretty impressive all the way through, or she came second into her heat. That meant she didn't progress directly to the quarterfinal. She had to do a repechage, and she then won that repechage. So although she's in lane 7, we know that she's a very plucky competitor, and Victoria Binns, I'm sure, will be keeping an eye on her.
Absolutely, yes, and she's doing a terrific job over on this side in Station 7. Alicia Walker, and the rule is difficult to explain, isn't it, Lizzie, about how we end up with, but simply put, the best you can do every time is to win, because if the weather turns nasty, you end up with the best lanes. That's how simple it is.
It is as simple as that. I quite agree with you.
And despite some people maybe feeling they've been disadvantaged, I actually applauded the officials for making this decision before racing started.
Absolutely, I agree.
Yep. Before racing started this morning, the decision was made, and that's all there was to it. And I had said to some of the officials, and my time managing the Australian Senior A team, the international governing body, FISA, had a tendency to make this decision too late.
Too late, yes.
They would gather data, they would
pontificate,
procrastinate, and then eventually, often to the detriment of the Australian team, I felt, make the decision about 5 races too late.
Yeah.
So Victoria Binns leading now from Sophia Miller, who's moved up into second place. Alicia Walker is in third place, but Sophia Miller from Glebe. So the two scullers in lane 6 and 7 really putting it out there in the early stages, where they're expected to be back in the second half of the field because of the way the field is in the preferred lanes. But Miller and Walker both doing a terrific job through the 1,000 metre mark.
And to your point, making the decision early means the entire day athletes have been able, and coaches have been able, to observe the racing, rethink their tactics, and that means you need to go out confidently, assertively off the start, and stay confident and just race your best.
Absolutely, and our co-commentator Stuart John, he was born with some problems with his hands, and yesterday when he went out for his race, his forearm just seized up because he was gripping the oar so tight. So he chose not to race today, because in tricky conditions he would have been grabbing the oar even tighter.
Yeah.
And he just his forearms would have just been like steel rods trying to hang on in these tricky conditions. But these youngsters out here are doing a terrific job. The two scullers in lane 6 and 7 are doing a wonderful job and are not that far behind our leader, Victoria Binns.
So this is exactly the same as our normal progression, which would have you racing in very calm conditions with the fastest crew by now in the middle of the course, fanning out in a V shape. Instead, you would expect to have a chevron, half of a chevron. And what we've got here is, and still, even when you have that hammerhead formation, you have people winning from the outside lane. It's exactly the same. You just get out there, deal with what you've got, and they're doing a great job.
Yep.
It's a much closer race than I expected, you're right.
Absolutely. And Madison Duncan from Canberra Grammar starting to push through in the middle there. But the Glebe sculler, Sophia Miller, coached by Millen and Thomas Parker, doing a wonderful job in Station 6. And it is very pleasing to see Glebe coming back into the forefront again. A smallish club that has been a big club at times in the past, but they're coming back strongly. They've gone through the 1,500 metre mark, and there's still Victoria Binns on the far side, but difficult to line them up now. It's a bit like, I've been known to say this in the past, it's a bit like the straight 6 at Flemington. And Sophia Miller of Glebe in Station 6 is making a bold bid for victory. Binns has got Gippsland Grammar Ella Duran covered, but then across to Madison Duncan. And on this side, I'd say the St Pat's Townsville sculler has had some steering difficulties there, and she's just trying to straighten up. She may have put in a couple of dirty strokes there and has lost all momentum.
Yep, Sophia Miller looks like she's capitalising on that, doesn't she? Which is good tactics. Again, it's about tactics as much as it is, and psychology as much as it is about your skill and your physical attributes.
You need to know when there's been a problem in the boat beside you. Let's take a few hard strokes and get away from them. And that's right. Put the nail in the coffin, as they say. And it's still Victoria Binns on the far side of the course in station 2 on the southern bank, leading from Glebe Sophia Miller, and the push coming through now. Gippsland Grammar, Ella Durand is going out after these other scullers. The first 3 will go through to Final A. The other 3 will go through to Final B, both to be raced tomorrow. And Victoria Binns from Loretto Marriotteville from Adelaide has got a bow in front of the Glebe Rowing Club sculler from Sydney, Sophia Miller. And Ella Durand coming home with a wet sail from Gippsland Grammar. She's coached by Nick Bartlett and Harry Roach. And she went from a battle for 4th to clearly 3rd in about 15 strokes. But they're no match for Victoria Binns of Loretto Marriotteville in Station 2. She's going to lead all the way to win this semi-final. Outstanding effort from Glebe Sophia Miller to finish in 2nd place. Gippsland Grammar's Ella Durand will be 3rd. 4th will be Canberra Grammar. 5th will be St Pat's of Townsville, and 6th will be Ballarat Grammar.
Yeah, she might be 6th, but that Ballarat Grammar sculler keeping the pressure on all the way and really close. So to recap the results of the first semi-final of the under-17 women's single scull, it was a win for Victoria Binns of Loretto Marriotteville. 2nd, Sophia Miller of Glebe Rowing Club. 3rd, Ella Durand of Gippsland Grammar. Those 3 scullers will progress through to the A final. 4th, Madison Duncan of Canberra Grammar. 5th, Lily Bragg of St Patrick's Townsville. And 6th, Alicia Walker of Ballarat Grammar. Those 3 scullers will progress through to the B final. Winning time 9 minutes 9.14 seconds. The second semi-final is now in progress in the under-17 women's single scull with Queenwood sculler Imogen Gray in lane 2. Coached by Katie Healy. Lily Barker from Kentish in Tasmania in lane 3, coached by Graham Scattergood. Hannah Wigston of Buckingham Rowing Club, coached by Hamish Johnston, is in lane 4. Lila Fieve of Fremantle is in lane 5. She's coached by Tom Gatty. Olivia Harris of Nepean Rowing Club is in lane 6. She's coached by Daniel Waddell. And Sarah Burke of St Patrick's Townsville is in lane 7. Her coach, Harrison Parks and Hayley Nielsen Burke.
And Hannah Wigston in Station 4 is our leader. She was impressive in her heat the other day, but she's in Station 4. She's not in one of the 2 preferred lanes, and she led through 500 metres and through the 1,000 metres. Imogen Gray of Queenwood in Station 2 is right up there. She was 3rd in the early stages, has moved into 2nd through the 1,000 metre mark. And Sarah Burke from Townsville, St Pat's in Townsville in lane 7, did a great job in the first 500 metres, as did Alicia Walker in the previous race. It's whether there's enough petrol tickets left to see out the distance. Then follows Lila Fieve, Lily Barker and Olivia Harris from Nepean is in 6th place as they went through the 1,000 metre mark.
Yeah, Hannah Wigston, I've loved watching her race. She's really gutsy and quite a good technician. And yeah, it's been really enjoyable to watch how she's really fought back through all of the races and done quite well. So at the 1,000 metre mark, she looks as though she's gaining confidence. She's worked her way up into the lead position. Let's see what she can do in the second half of the race.
I think the Queenwood sculler has burst through in the championship quarter, as Richard calls it. The third 500 of a 2,000 metre race is where the action is, and it is Imogen Gray who's hit the lead. 6 minutes 40.7 through there, in front of Hannah Wigston, about a length and a quarter in front. Then back to Sarah Burke. Very brave effort from Burke from St Pat's of Townsville in Station 6. We did mention how brave Alicia Walker was from Ballarat Grammar, but it costs a lot of petrol to be out there in this side of the course and be competitive, and she's got to hold off the challenges from the Fremantle sculler Lila Fieve, who's coached by Tom Gatty at Fremantle Rowing Club. So it's Imogen Gray, coached by Katie Healy of Queenwood School in Sydney. On the far side of the course is the leader and looking to book an advantage lane in tomorrow's final. Hannah Wixton of Buckingham, coached by Hamish Johnson, holding down second place at the moment. And she's been impressive in the preliminary rounds and is in the first three at the moment, looking to be in the A final tomorrow.
Lovely rhythm there from Imogen Gray across there in the far lane representing Greenwood. She, as you said, put on that big push, pushed through in that third 500, and now she's just holding, watching everybody over on her left, keeping it long and strong. She's dropped the rate of striking a little, which is okay as long as she's ahead, but I think she just needs to keep a very careful eye on Sarah Burke of St Patrick's, Townsville, who's looking quite lively across here in lane 7.
And such hard work over here where she is, and she's done a fantastic job. She's going to make the final from lane 7.
Oh, yes.
It's a very, very brave effort. Hannah Wixton from Bucks is in second place, but Sarah Burke from Townsville is challenging her for that second place. No doubt about our winner, Queenwood's Imogen Gray, is going to go on and win semi-final number 2. The Buckingham sculler in the middle of the course, responding to the challenge from Sarah Burke of St Pat's of Townsville, and we'll get across in second. Buckingham, Hannah Wixton will finish second, albeit narrowly in front of St Pat's of Townsville. A brave effort from St Pat's of Townsville. Fourth then will be the Fremantle sculler Lila Fieve. Fifth will be Kentish from Northern Tasmania, Lily Barker. And at the rear of the field will be the Nepean sculler Olivia Harris.
Yeah, Olivia had a fantastic race in the double earlier on today, and maybe that's taken it out of her a little. No doubt at all about the winner of semi-final number 2. It was Imogen Gray from Queenwood School. Second across the line, Hannah Wixton from Buckingham. And third, Sarah Burke from St Patrick's in Townsville. Those 3 scullers will progress through to the A final. Fourth, Lila Fieve from Fremantle. Fifth, Lily Barker from Kentish. And coming into the line now, Olivia Harris from Nepean Rowing Club. Those 3 will contest the B final. The winning time for Imogen Gray was 8 minutes, 58.5 seconds. And that compares with 9 minutes, 4 seconds in the previous semi-final. The margin between Imogen and Hannah Wixton, 4.47, and just 0.76 back to Sarah Burke.
So 2 very tough races to finish today's program, Lizzie. We've seen...
tough races and really impressive sculling. Yes, we've seen a really great example of the talent that's coming through, haven't we?
Well, the tenacity shown by these youngsters, and now we have the afternoon group coming in to go for a training row. There's no point saying I'm not going to row because it's a bit rough, because it's likely to be like this tomorrow.
It is indeed, and could, whilst we hope it won't be like this on Sunday, who knows?
Yep. So that draws to conclusion today's racing. Thank you for listening to us, for watching us at home. Lizzie and I and the rest of the team have had a great day. There's been wonderful racing, and we look forward to joining you again at 8 a.m. tomorrow. Day 4 of the Australian Rowing Championships here at Nagambie Lakes, and we'll bring it to you live and loud right across the world.
We will indeed. Look forward to seeing you then.